right, good morning.
Morning, Governor.
Guess we had a change in the weather, huh? A big change.
The case has been going on so long, the weather changed.
Right. A 40-degree difference, right? Give or take. Anyway, let's go ahead and set forth our appearances on the record. We'll start first with the plaintiff, then we'll move to the
Your
defense.
Honor, Will Kemp, Katie Parker, Eric and Leon Switzler for the plaintiffs.
Good morning, Your Honor. Joel Levy, Matthew Kaufman, Eric Freeman on behalf of the Rowater defendants.
All right. Anything outside the presence? I know we had one pending issue regarding the one juror. If we,
Yeah, Your Honor, we can get that whenever it's convenient for the court.
as soon as we find out what the deficit is,
Yeah,
you want to bring her in now?
sure. That's fine, sure.
And that was panel member number 3, wasn't it?
Yes, Your Honor, Ms. Moret.
Miss Moret,
Moret?
juror number 3.
Yes, Your Honor.
Book review.
That might be a long time coming.
It might be. He's still working on it.
Huh?
He's still working on it, so.
Okay. After 1,100 pages, you just want to kill the characters. You know, you hate them all. You hate them all. You know, when I started this project, I was thinking, I'll just read this one, and I'll spend it on there and pretty much.
Right.
Both that, right? You know? No, that's not what's going to happen. Well, actually, for the Anna Cream, after reading this book and seeing the Anna Cream parts in it, I think Anna Cream might be better.
Oh, interesting.
You know?
Never read that, Grant. Haven't made it all the way through War and Peace either.
I've got an extra copy for you, so.
I think I've got mine with my page saved.
Is it like the only, like the most famous part of actor in that, all happy families are the same in that they're happy, but all sad families are the same, are different in the fact of the cause of their pain or something like that?
I think we need to reread it. Yeah.
All right, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, good morning.
You can have a seat. Anyway, ma'am, we're just doing a follow-up. Remember on our discussion regarding potentially what deficits you might have as far as salary is concerned?
Correct, so it's, like, within nobody's business, but my pay is $24.35. So when I added the $24.35 plus the, $150 we get because we work night shift. Sorry. It comes out to $25.85. So I times that by 12 because I work 3 12-hour shifts.
Right.
That's 310.20. So I minus the 65 that you guys give me. I'm losing $245 a day.
Per day?
Yes.
Okay. And so how many days are we talking about approximately?
Just Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are Sunday, Mondays, and Tuesdays are the days that I'm missing, but they only paid me for the 24 hours, so.
What's the total calc on that?
Don't look at me.
I'll tell you on break for sure.
Okay.
I'll give it to you when I come back. Like,
Yeah, I need a total. Assuming we went through Wednesday, is that a good assumption? Or Thursday, what do you think?
Yeah, Thursday's right.
Assuming we go through Thursday, I
Okay.
want you to give me a total
for
calculation.
each day total?
Yes.
Okay,
And
I'll
then
do that.
for each day total, and then total the number of days and give me a total.
Okay.
So-
And I'll subtract the 65 that
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys already
absolutely.
given.
Yes.
Okay,
You know what to do.
yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
And thank you, because we want to keep up on that.
And don't forget graduation today.
Right.
That's right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, you can shut the door. Graduation day, I forgot.
Yeah, remember she's graduating today, so she has to leave at 4:30.
Okay, all right, well, we'll be fine with
Yeah, I
that.
think we're good.
Yeah. Any other issues?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, do you want
I have
a
a few
preview of what we have this morning?
No, we see it.
It is what it is. So it doesn't- no, I don't need a preview.
Okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
And we got a couple exhibits we still need to admit
Okay.
before we rest. Your Honor, I went over the exhibit list with the clerk this morning, and we're all good. There's only a few that are missing. Plaintiff's exhibit 545, 546, and 548. These are all presentations from the CDC that were given. They were previously stipulated to.
So we'll admit those if they were stipulated to. Did you get those, ma'am?
Yes.
And then plaintiff's exhibit 481, which is a picture of Lorenzo Munoz. I believe this was intended to be admitted or stipulated to, but
Is that the one in the hospital?
it's when he's in the hospital, I believe.
Any objection?
No objection. I thought they were,
It wasn't on the list, so
Oh,
that's
okay.
why I'm just doing these up.
I don't remember seeing it on the screen, so.
And then the last issue, Your Honor, is we admitted an exhibit with all the plaintiff's tissue slides.
I remember that.
That was exhibit
94.
794. Mr. Henry's tissue slide was inadvertently not included in that. So I'm not sure the best way to handle it is if we could resubmit a copy of 794 that includes Mr. Henry's slide, or if we should admit Mr. Henry's slide as a separate exhibit.
Is that one hard copy?
It was hard copy, yeah.
You can just give me the missing page,
Okay, great.
if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, is it okay if I get that down here and provide it to you a little later today?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay. Shall be admitted, subject to the adjustment.
That is all. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Very quick, while we're talking about exhibits, Your Honor, really quick, in preparation for Dr. Lynn today, we're going to admit exhibit 2664, which is a subset of his records, and 2665, which is also a subset of his records. I discussed with plaintiff's counsel, there's no objection.
His being able.
Able, yes. Sorry, yes. Trevor, and we have paper copies of these to replace the more lengthy copies in the electronic record for the court as well.
Right. Shall be admitted. Any other exhibits from the defense perspective? I know there'll be more probably, but for now, for today.
Not for now.
Okay. So where does that put us?
Ready to proceed?
Ready to proceed, Mr. Kent?
Yes, sir.
All right. I guess we can bring the jury in, sir.
Remember, Your Honor, I need to rest for the jury.
Oh, that's why I didn't say anything. I know. I got you. And then from the defense perspective, how many witnesses today?
4 witnesses via video and 1 live.
Okay, and the first one would be the live testimony?
No, that will be the last one, Your Honor. The first 4 are all video.
Okay.
And I'll let the jury know the times.
I don't need so much to do. I mean, that's it. April. I think so, good. Right, fine, yeah. Thank you, sir. And you may be seated. All right, do the parties stipulate to the presence of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Kemp, you have the floor, sir. Are you ready to proceed? Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Your Honor, plaintiffs would rest their case at present.
Okay, thank you, sir. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what that does is this, the plaintiff has presented their case in chief. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning. Now we're gonna transition into the defense case in chief. All right, and so, Mr. O'Doul, you're ready to proceed, sir?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you very much.
Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Morning.
We're going to proceed with some pre-recorded video testimony. The first video is Michael Bush. The video presentation is about 42 minutes long, and I'll let you know each time. This is the longest one.
It's not Zoom, it's gonna be just normal. Yeah. Thank you.
You solemnly swear that the testimony in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
You may proceed.
Okay. Can you tell me can you describe your educational background, please? Yeah, military training, and let's see, went to college, some college. Let's see, I'm an adjuster now, got an adjuster's license, that's about it. But also with Nestle, I worked for Nestle for many years. Okay, when did you graduate from high school? A couple of years ago, 1983, June 83. And after that, you went into the military? That's right. I went in the military, I went to 85. 85, went out in 2006. Reserve and then active duty after that, I went for a time. Okay, so you were in the military for approximately 20 years? Right, 20 years, 22 years actually, totally. In which branch? Started off in Navy Reserves and then went to National Guard, and after that I wanted to activate it for active Army. Okay, so how long were you in the active Army? About 5 years, I'd say, 5 years. Where were you stationed? I was in Stockton, California, and Sacramento, California for force protection up in Iowa. And did you have any particular thing you were trained for? Let's see, as a staff sergeant, I had people out there in the security forces, that's it. So you were basically security? Right, security. And Navy, I was a draftsman, CDs actually, CDs in there. And that's spelled S-E-A-D-E-E-S? Correct, that's correct, in the Navy, that's right. And after you left the military in 2006, what did you do? Well, I was working for Nestle up to that since 88. I worked for Nestle from 88 all the way till 2014. So I left Nestle, let me come right back to work. And I was production supervisor for Nestle Rapid and Milk Plant in Nestle, California at that time. I had the distribution center supervisor before that. I went back there to Nestle in Nestle, California. Worked out for about 6 months, and I was promoted into a SAP implementation team for Nestle Foods USA, and did that, and then went to Nestle Waters, Nestle Water Company. Did that for about 6 months. They were in the middle of SAP implementation, had some trouble. Helped them out with that. Myself and like 14 people around the country, and then went to Nestle Purina in St. Louis, Missouri. Did that, and then just commuting every week back and forth to St. Louis, California, so I ended up moving back to California and worked for Dryer's Ice Cream in Bakersfield, California. pre-manufacturing supervisor. Then I got hired on with Johnson & Johnson Diversity Chemical Company doing sales and sales rep throughout California from Bakersfield up to the border of Oregon, California. I did that until Sealed Air Corporation bought us. They bought the diversity end of the California division. And at that point, I worked for iCrack, a startup company in San Francisco.
Okay, all right. And that take us up to real water?
I just went out, I met my wife in San Francisco. We flew to Vegas to get married. 2 months later, we decided to move to Vegas, and moved to Vegas October of 2018. I did move here without any work, and I got hired on at Real Water right November, beginning of November, I believe, and then left Real Water. That was 2018, left Real Water in April, maybe May at the latest of 2019, so.
Okay, so you were with Real Water from November of 2018 to April of 2019, correct?
Right, it might be May, but I'm pretty sure it was it.
Okay, and Nestle spelled N-E-S-T-L-E?
Right, that's right. That's it.
Is that a Swiss company?
It's owned by Swiss, right?
And so you work for the U.S. division, correct?
Right, U.S., and there's Nestle Foods, Nestle Waters, Nestle Pet, which is Purina.
Okay. And what were you in the foods or waters or both?
Began in foods for a year, and then went to Purina, St. Louis, Missouri. As soon as we got there, our waters just having some trouble, so they sent a smaller group of us around to Perrier and San Pellegrino warehouse sites, and also Hawkins, Texas. One in Long Beach, one in New Jersey, and then Hawkins, Texas, and down there in Ontario, there's a big Arrowhead water company. There's also one up in Northern California somewhere too.
Okay, so what time period were you involved with Nestle Waters as opposed to the foods or the other branches?
It was a very short amount of time. Maybe around January of 2007 to, no, hold on, 2007. Maybe January 2008 to maybe March 2008. Plus or minus a few months there, I think, or a month.
How did it come to your attention that a job position was open at Real Water in November 2018?
Let's see, maybe Indeed or something like that. I think I was really hotly hunting for jobs when I got here. Interviewed all over the place, and I walked into the front counter, and some human resource lady or somebody said, "You might make a good fit." And I come in, I think I spoke to Amy Jones. She interviewed me. I think Blaine Jones might interview me too.
Okay, and would this have been at the DI location?
Excuse me?
Would this interview have been at the Desert Inn location?
Desert Inn, right? Everyone at Desert Inn, that's correct.
Okay. And what job position, if any, were you applying for?
Production manager was open, so I applied for that one.
Okay. In general, what were your duties and responsibilities as production manager?
The duties and responsibility, running a crew, small crew, I forgot it was 10 to 14, something like that. And I think I worked both shifts, there was the first and the second shift. And there's a bottling line, and they were making cases, and the people were making cases in the case machine. They weren't always perfect, so they put some glue on them. After the bottles went into the cases, the whole team I had was gluing them up. Make sure the labeler was always working right. Just make sure production had a goal every day. I don't know what the goal was here exactly was. But I kind of using my Nestle experience, kind of pump people up in there. Let's go. And give some rewards or whatever. So we got an election form, I think, for making some goal, maybe more like a team environment there, so the top-down environment. Did that.
So you were there approximately 9 to 5 during the day?
Pretty much, right? Pretty much.
5 days a week, 6 days a week?
5 days a week, 6 days a week if needed.
So during the time period you were there, November 2018 to April 2019, what types of products were being produced in the terms of 1 millimeter, 5 millimeter, 5 gallon? What types of products were being produced on your assembly line?
don't know if you have pictures of those things in there somewhere, but, the main was the main majority, the one you see in Costco, is the main one we ran all the time. And there was a smaller one, a little bit smaller one, I was overseeing that. And then once in a while, we ran the 5 gallons in a separate room. And then Blaine eventually put up another special 5 gallon area near the restroom in the back on the side of it. So. But I was watching over the main caseable items for Costco, that was the biggest customer at the time.
Okay, so we've been told that the concentrate was pre-made. Is that your recollection?
Well, like I said, it was a special room in the back, and when you want to make it, you turn on a couple valves, regular PVC valves, you see the sprinklers, that kind of thing. And they ran into a little, like a cabin you see in high school or something like that. Went on one side, came out to the side, and I wanted to see it. He said, no, it's just like the KFC special ingredients, if you proprietary against it. So that's okay. So I don't know exactly what was going on in that little thing, what was being added to it, or, okay, so this, I don't know for sure what happened there, but.
So you were not involved in the concentrate mixing process, correct?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, but other than Blaine Jones, no one else made the concentrate?
No, it was his baby there.
Prior to working on the real water production line, did you ever work on the food or water production?
Oh, yes, for sure. And, that's the evaporated milk plant, the plants. I oversaw the whole operation there from start to finish. They brought in 21 trucks a day of raw milk, and with their homogenizer, evaporators, they get the can, they get when we sterilize it, and it goes up and it gets onto a bi-directional machine, and it gets labeled, packed, and shipped. I'm just gonna watch them all. There was a whole quality control team, lab team that did the testing of it.
Okay, and that was a Nestle milk plant, correct?
You had the only Nestle evaporated milk plant, if you ever make that, I'll get buy it off this application.
And other than the Nestle milk plant, had you ever worked on a food or water plant line other before coming to real water?
Oh. Back there, no, never worked on that. Hold on a second, hold on. Nestle Dryers Ice Cream. Did a pre-manufacture. We had the largest ice cream plant in the world there, Bakersfield, 35 miles ice cream, skinny power, dryers, all that closure and stuff, and I was watching over all the pre-manufactured for this wall that goes to production. We got to mix all the ingredients, chocolate chips, peanut butter, jelly, strawberries, everything were ready to roll and pumped into these vats, and then they'd be pumped on the line the next day. That'd be ready to go at like 6 a.m. in the morning.
Okay, and that Dryers is spelled D-R-Y-E-R-S?
Right, that's right. Dryers, Nestle Dryers Ice Cream.
All right. Now, when you first arrived at Real Water, did they have a quality control director?
So I think Blaine was pretty much overall quality control there. Maybe Amy too, I'm not really sure.
Okay, and you got there November 2018, correct?
That's right.
Okay, so according to the Exhibit 18, you got Exhibit 18 there?
Should be on page 18, NSF International Quality Water Plant Audit.
Right.
There you go.
Okay, and are you familiar with NSF?
Yes.
Okay, and were you there that day when an NSF person came on December 6, 2018?
Oh, I'm sure it was, yes. You walked around, find the whole team there.
Okay, and according to the NSF report, if you look at the number 86 on the bottom, there's a document number.
See it right here?
Okay, and the note says, quote, "There was no qualified individual to provide a level of competency necessary for production of clean and safe product. Note that the QA director has resigned." Did you see that?
But yes, I absolutely see that. QA director.
Okay, so at the time of the 2018 NSF audit on December 6, 2018, Real Water did not have a quality control director.
No, I don't believe so. I do remember that. Okay, now you're ringing my bell. I remember that Amy and them claims that they had a really bad audit with Costco. They gotta get this thing going here. And bring it up to speed. Maybe that's what they brought him on board. Tighten things up. I'm sure that's what it's for.
Okay, so you heard that they had a bad audit with Costco referring to this Exhibit 18, correct?
Right, that's right, correct.
So in any event, sometime after this, December 6, 2018 inspection, they hired Mr. Pham, correct?
Right, that's the fan. Okay, who's there?
And then Tom Pham was made the Director of Quality Control, right?
There you go. There you go. Yes, he was.
And you said Tom Pham lasted just a brief period of time?
To my knowledge, I think maybe a month or two months, maybe.
Did he leave prior to the time you left?
Oh, yes, he did.
And you know why Mr. Pham left?
I know he was, not very happy when he was doing work in there. I don't know why, I don't know the details, but he told me. When he told me.
Did you witness any disagreements between Mr. Pham and anyone else at Real Water?
Oh, with myself, I disagree with him. He's just, more talkative than action kind of guy. Anyway, I don't go too far on that, but nice personality, but for the position, he wasn't as strong of a leader at all. That's my input.
Did you think he was qualified?
No.
And why did you think he was qualified to be a quality control director?
As I said, I worked for Nestle and the higher standards, I was always talking to Amy and Blaine about changing things up over there. If we tightened up a bit, but he wasn't, one of the people that just talks to management, like he knows what's going on, but he's not doing that. He's checking his phone on dating sites and things like that. He wasn't really engaged, that's the best way.
Okay. He would cuddle up to management, but he wasn't really doing his job.
Right, right. Maybe he was doing some good stuff behind the scenes, but I didn't see much.
Okay. Are you familiar with HACCP, H-A-C-C-P?
Yes, hazardous control points, yes, sir.
And have you had HACCP training?
Years ago with Nestle, critical control points, it's a part of it.
Okay. And did you have any HACCP training at Real Water?
I don't remember that, no.
Okay. Do you know whether or not Mr. Pham had any HACCP training?
No, I don't know.
Okay. But in your view, he was not qualified to be a quality control director?
Right, just based on my experience in the past, I can see that in his blood.
Did you feel like you knew more about quality control than he did?
I felt I did, which wasn't a good gauge, because I never was actually a quality control person in any of my roles before, but I worked with really professional people at Nestle. And that's a different level. I'm more engaged, serious.
Nestle has a different level of quality control than Real Water had.
Yes, I'd say very much so.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, would you put Nestle at a 10?
10 plus, yes. He said, oh, wait a minute, he said I was quality control. Yes, I was quality control for Carnation when it first began years ago. First, maybe it was in 1989.
Carnation, a milk product?
No, that was Carnation. Nestle bought Carnation back in '94. I worked for a Carnation distribution center. Not production, this is not production, but I mean, at one time they had a load of cat food come in from overseas, and it had actually real tuna that is manufactured in the same place as Bumblebee, which is too good of a product. I had to go out there and watch 5 or 6 truckloads become to the landfill, and I've seen them dump tons of milk just because it's a little bit off quality smell, something like that. That's super, really impressive. You don't get anything bad from Nestle.
And that was Carnation.
That was Carnation. Nestle bought it, so.
Nestle had a 10 plus in your view. How would you rate the quality control of real water when you were there?
Let's see. Not too bad. Let's see, maybe 3, 4 maybe.
All right. Now, what is your understanding as to what the reporting procedure was at Real Water if a customer indicated they were potentially sick from drinking real water?
Boy, that was not even me. That would have been Amy Jones or Blaine Jones or what's the owner, main owner's name? His name. Grant Jones, yeah. Those three would have worked it out, figured out how that worked.
Okay, so you didn't get any training on what to do with customer complaints?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you become aware of any customer complaints?
The only customer complaint type of thing I would hear that I'd be involved with is the caps weren't screwed on right, it was leaking out of the bottle, something like that, right?
Did you drink real water yourself?
I did, I drank it. We use a couple cases every week for a month, we get a case stay home.
Did you drink it at work, at home, or both?
I don't know, at home, maybe at home, I work at home.
Okay. And when you drank it at work, did you drink it straight off the assembly line?
No, I just, no, we had a sealed bottle.
And was there a reason you didn't drink it straight off the assembly line?
It was just an open air. I wasn't, like I said, I came from a different environment, and really didn't seem open air would be a good bit. But we could fill it up on the volume line, we capped right there on the spot. So it was never bottles floating down the line with it open, right? So it was never an opportunity to bring it, I would see.
Okay. There's been some testimony that there was some sort of procedure to let it sit for a couple days before anyone drank it off the assembly line. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, what was the procedure?
We got me on the specific dates on that, but I did hear, I don't know the procedure, I don't know what you want from me, but I remember it was, I don't know how long, I don't know if you did not about that.
Okay, but the procedure was to allow it to sit for some time period, correct?
Sometimes we're behind and we just pack the trucks and ship it out. The consumer probably after it sits here a couple of days, I don't know the number of days it was.
Okay, and why did they want it to sit before they shipped it out?
The reason why? No, my explanation to me was it would make the people have, diarrhea or whatever, but if you have too much chlorine and something like that, you do the same type of.
So if you drank it right off the assembly line, it could potentially give people diarrhea.
Right, there you go, now you got my memory going, right? So we didn't drink it off the line, that's the reason why.
Okay, and could it also potentially make people vomit?
It would be the same as if you drank like chlorine water from a pool, so that's what I was told. So I think it could make you vomit, I'm sure.
And who told you that?
Had it be Blaine it's the only guy that looked at.
Okay, and did you ever make inquiries into what was in the water that was making people sick and vomiting?
No, there wasn't like this isn't a customer complaint that I'm dealing with, it's just general knowledge we have, as far as what would happen. I didn't hear that customers get sick with the stuff.
When you drank the Nestle water when it came off the line, would that make you sick and vomit?
No. Super clean place. No, the water was, no.
Okay, are you aware of any other bottled water that if you drink it off the line makes you sick and vomit?
I'm sure the Santi, they put ozone, I think, in that thing. When they bottle it, you can't drink it right away.
Okay, directing your attention to Exhibit 46. This is an email chain between Shani Castile and a customer named Watkins, Wadkins. And you are not on the email chain, okay? No, I think you got the wrong exhibit. I think 40, did I say 46? I meant 40. Yeah, 46.
46 doesn't look like an email. So letter.
suggesting you should have gotten this email. I'm just asking if you knew anything about, on the second page, it says, quote, "My husband has been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and the doctor wants him to stop drinking alkaline water," unquote. Did I read that right?
That's right.
Okay. Did you become aware at any time that a real water customer was in the hospital?
No, no. I didn't know about that. I mean, that's something, a big thing. And say, for example, we're in Nestle and something happens like this, all management would shut the plant down just about 15 minutes or so and just take to review it.
Right.
After action report, the military sent that. But no, I don't remember that. No.
If Nestle got a report that one of their customers drank their water, was in the hospital for 2 weeks, they would shut the assembly line down, correct?
Yeah.
And you said the military would do the same thing, shut the line down and do an investigation, correct?
Manufacturers, incident on the firing lines and whatever, or something like that, and after action report and review what have you.
Okay. Do you know what hydrazine is?
Hydrazine?
Hydrazine.
No.
Okay? And if you take a look at Exhibit 25, that is a test report that the FDA did on the concentrate used to make real water, where they found in 3 different samples that they had hydrazine levels of 1.44, 1.75, and 1.32. Okay? You with me?
I got it.
Okay. And if you take a look at the next page, that's a fact sheet about hydrazine. That's Exhibit 26, which generally says that hydrazine is a rocket fuel that causes liver and kidney damage. Do you see that?
Just tell me exactly what page, please, and I'm trying to look on there.
Right there on Exhibit 26, the block portion of the screen, quote, where it says, "Exposure to hydrazines may cause nervous system effects as well as liver and kidney damage," unquote. Did I read that right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong exhibit. Well, I'm not mistaken, I'm under it.
Okay, I read that right?
No, I read it right, I read it, didn't know about that, but, I guess,
Would you agree with me that hydrazine should not have been in real water?
I hope it wasn't, but, I can agree with it based on that statement, but that should not be anywhere around that plant.
Okay, can you give me any explanation as to how hydrazine could have found its way into real water?
If it was put in real water, all the area I saw was not put in at all. Nobody's poured anything in there unless it's after shipping overnight. I don't see that happening. I can imagine in that little locker, in the little not secret, I'm saying it's water, but in the little room that we did the water concentrate, whatever was done in that locker, whatever was in that locker must have, if it was added, I would assume it'd be added in that room, if it was added at all.
You spoke to Mr. Kemp about your experience at Real Water, and I just want to make sure I have the dates right. So I have that you were the production manager at Real Water from November 2018 to around April 2019. Is that accurate?
That's right.
And then from April to sometime in May 2019, you were the HOD sales manager for the 5-gallon jugs at Real Water?
Absolutely not. I was not a sales manager. I was a sales team member.
So I'm going to show you now what plaintiffs have marked as Exhibit 20. So I believe it's there in your binder.
Exhibit 20?
Yep. And I'll also put it up on your screen for you. This is base number Real Water 065740 to 065742. Do you see that in front of you?
I see it.
And you told Mr. Kemp that this was the general hierarchy of the quality control team while you were there?
Right, that's right. This new plan, I guess he put this together.
And Tom, you said refers to Tom Van.
Correct.
Tom, you said refers to Tom Fan?
Top fan, right?
And then, could you tell us who Jose is?
Yeah, he's like the right-hand man to Obed. He's like a worker bee out there. You know, he was putting bottles into the cases, that kind of thing. Obed took a break or lunch, and Jose was jumping into it for him. Yeah, they're all pretty much the same level. They were Obed, I'd say he was the main person in charge of everything there. These other people that kept doing it. You know, in case Obed was out, or whatever reason, those two would jump in.
In terms of the retail bottle production at the Desert Inn facility, were Obed, Jose, and Diego three of the main individuals who worked on the retail bottle production line?
I'd say yes. There was other people that worked there, laborers. They were all laborers. They're the main ones.
And again, you said that the individuals working on the production line of the 5-gallon jugs at Desert Inn while you were there were different, correct?
Right. I think this guy's name was Efren and some other guy. Not a lot of people in there. 3 or 4 people in that room.
In terms of Obed, Jose, and Diego, the individuals who worked on the production line for the retail bottles at Desert Inn, do you believe that they did a good job?
Oh yeah, these people, they were fired up. They were just happy as heck to work. You know,
So in terms of the quality control team that worked specifically on the retail bottle production at Desert Inn while you were there, you believe that they did a good job, correct?
I believe so. I'd say 90% they did a good job. They were very attentive.
And I think you mentioned this to Mr. Kemp, but I apologize if I'm retreading the ground a little bit, and I just want to confirm. What is HACCP?
It's a hazardous critical control point team.
While you were there at Real Water, was there an HACCP team for the retail bottle production at the Desert Inn facility?
No, I mean, this was put together by Tom, just to have it put together. I don't remember ever having any meetings together on this situation. It was just put together so we could have an HACCP team. I believe, I'm fairly sure I would have to Costco audit the person who was selling. I think this is something that was identified as not being in our records there. They had to put this together.
Did you see that on your screen?
Oh yeah, I remember this one, yeah.
And I'm happy to scroll down on these documents. They all look relatively similar, but with different dates. Does this refresh your memory that there were HACCP meetings at the Desert Inn facility while you were there?
Let's see, I do remember this, I do.
Do you recall that you and Mr. Pham participated in HACCP meetings related to retail bottle production at the facility at that time?
It would have been for the whole plan, yes, we didn't narrow it down, but I remember on that. Such a small plant, there was another one, pest control, that kind of thing. Map of the plant, says he made it priority projects.
Number 6 here, it says plant sanitation issue. Do you remember what that was?
Oh, boy. Like I said, they were putting together a 5-gallon line in another room outside of the room they were originally making the 5 gallons at. It was right next to the bathroom facility for the whole plant. When you say bathroom facility, it's a toilet, and you close the door, they close very well. And I was saying the odor from this thing is pretty bad. So that was something we had to work on. And I do remember something to do with increase the sanitation of that, but one of the crews, the volunteer, that didn't work out, so I got somebody just specifically to go in there and make sure that's clean every day. But I didn't like it being there. But
The number 4 entry here says Mike will conduct training on employee GMP personnel. Do you see that?
I do see that.
What is employee GMP personnel, if you recall?
It is worded kind of funky there, but let's see. It's your GMPs, I recall that's like wearing your hairnet and face mask around, wearing gloves and certain things you do. goggles, I think goggles are part of that.
Does this refer to good manufacturing practices?
Have the sodas out in the plant, that type of thing.
I apologize, does this refer to good manufacturing practices?
Right, yeah, for sure. I'm wearing a lab coat, and the person inside the bonding room has a lab coat at all times, wearing goggles at all times. I forgot they wear gloves, and I believe they wear gloves in the bonding room had real stringent, more than the rest of the plant, that they had to do.
In terms of your role as production manager at Real Water, did you ensure that the retail bottle production line was following good manufacturing practices while you were in charge?
Oh, yeah, that was probably my main things to do there.
Yes, Mark.
I didn't speak Spanish, a lot of people just spoke only Spanish, so I had to work around that, but it's no problem.
You found a way to ensure that they knew the good manufacturing practices for the retail bottle production?
For sure, like I said, the big point of this is so bad, he spoke Spanish and English, and had to convey something to a new person out there. We get it done, they were a really attentive team out there, they want to keep things rolling. They were doing okay before, but I kind of put the little setup out there for pizzas or whatever I was doing for them, potlucks, stuff, things like that.
This is another document produced by Real Water. It is titled at the top, HACCP. Document number 04-11-11-05, and then the base number on the first page is Real Water -001821, and it goes to Real Water -001-824. Do you see that?
I see it.
Do you recall receiving an HACCP SOP from Real Water?
Oh, yeah, let's see, I signed it off there for sure. I do remember walking in the room, this is a special room again, right? And there was a UV light in there that the water had to go through this UV light to kill bacteria. I remember that.
Is that your signature, I think you mentioned, where it says check by QA, QC?
That's me, that's my sloppy, that's me right there. I don't know. Clay Jones, myself, and I think that's Tom Pan, I think, yeah.
In terms of this document, it mentions that line 1 is 500 milliliter, 1 liter, and this is a document that it's titled, it's from Silver State Analytical Laboratories. It says invoice, and it's dated March 5th, 2019. Do you see all that?
That's it.
And just below, it says reported to, and it says Mike Bush. Do you see that part?
Oh, yeah, I remember something about that for sure.
Do you recall having a role in periodic testing of Real Water on behalf of the company?
Oh, yeah, it was Silver State. Silver State would do it, and I get these documents, come in, and they would just give me the document, and I hand it to Amy, I'm sure, or Blaine.
This specific document says quarterly NSF as the project name. Do you see that?
Project name, quarterly, yeah, I see that.
Do you know what quarterly NSF is in terms of a project for the testing?
No, not set up at the, no, I just told, take this document when they come in. No, I remember, now I remember, sorry, this is a while ago, I should remember. I remember this person would come in, and he'd say, I'm taking samples. So I walked through the plant, I had always walk in the plant, walk around. Yeah, I do remember, they took samples from, it's right after the water softener, somewhere in there. We had a little spigot turned on, put up some water things to the left, and, yeah, it was it, and I think metal, probably metal was talking about back to 80 or something like that.
Do you recall that there was weekly testing of Real Water bottles that you were involved in?
Oh, I'm sure. Like I said, the Silver State people would come in, and I was told to bring them in and monitor, not monitor them, but they would open the spigot, fill up their container. I think they'd use some of our bottles, probably pull them up, took them out, and then come out and just report back to Blaine or Amy or both.
Do you recall ever receiving any abnormal test results from Silver State Laboratories, specifically relating to the retail bottle production while you were there?
If I did, I could immediately bring it to Blaine's attention. It would not sit in my hand for less than a second, so I'd do something major there.
And as you sit here,
that's our main thing.
As you sit here, do you recall receiving any?
No.
In terms of hydrazine that Mr. Kemp asked you about, for the retail bottle production specifically, are you aware of any test results for retail real water that found hydrazine in them at any time while you were there?
No. I would have Googled it myself. That was a good flag for me at least, but no, I'm not aware, no.
Just so I understand, while you worked at the Desert Inn Real Water Facility, what was your role with audits, if any?
I would just, like a dog and pony show type thing, I'd walk around with Blaine and Amy, I guess, and the auditor. And then any questions related to me, I'd answer their questions, would ask me questions that I knew I'd answer. Mostly Blaine, Blaine or Amy would answer those things.
Okay. And you recall that you were shown, I think it was Exhibit 18, which was the December 6, 2018 audit. Do you recall that?
I do recall that.
Before today, had you ever seen the audit itself? Had you ever seen that before?
Yeah, probably when Tom Pham came on board, I think we went over some of it, I think. No, Amy was pretty adamant about getting this audit redone. She said she's got some people to call or something. Anyway, yeah, I don't, you can't remember specifically everything that went on that day.
Okay. So is it accurate then that you don't specifically recall reviewing this audit before today?
Specifically, no. I might have reviewed it, but if it pertains to me, water transportation, no. Source water, pest control. At the time, I guess, I'm just looking through this real quick. Okay, I do remember this point. It's a big deal here. It's, it was page 6 of 17, not a big thing for you, actually. Number 4, about people wearing earrings and those types of things. There were some guys that put earrings and tongue rings. I don't know what they're wearing. But it was a big push to get these people to remove that stuff. I had some trouble with some employees that wanted to wear them in, forget about them.
Okay, and are you generally recalling the issue pertaining to the earrings, or is this type of document, which is the audit, the document that documents everything that was done in the audit and the scores, is this type of document something that was that's something that you would have reviewed as part of your job duties?
Well, not a review specifically. I would have gone over it with Blaine, I'm sure.
Okay.
I need to resolve, or she's going to give me a bullet points to knock out.
And do you recall seeing any audits other than the one that is Exhibit 18 during your time at Real Water?
No, but I think after this, I think I'd suggest that I do my own audits. Because I didn't like this being hit once a year, kind of thing. I do my own audits once a week or so, just walk through the plant, check everything out. I think Tom Pham did the same thing. His own local audits, we tighten things up before we get a big audit like that.
Have you ever heard of something called a re-audit?
Yeah, that's the one I told you that Amy was really pushing for that, because she said we could lose the Springer account, and she was making phone calls, telling everybody about it. She's very upset. And she got an auto. I think she knew somebody who was an auditor or something. I don't know. Anyway, we got to be on that.
Okay, so, and do you know if Real Water received a higher score on the re-audit that was completed? And
I do remember they did get a better score on that.
okay.
We're very happy with that.
Your Honor, that concludes Mr. Bush's testimony.
All right, thank you, sir.
The next witness we would call again by video recorded testimony is Diego Mendigana, and his testimony is about 11 minutes long.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Do you solemnly swear you will interpret the following testimony from English into Spanish and from Spanish into English to the best of your ability?
I do.
Thank you. Sir, please raise your right hand.
Señor, por favor, levante su mano derecha.
Do Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this deposition will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
¿Jura usted solemnemente que el testimonio que va a dar en esta declaración juramentada va a ser la verdad, solo la verdad y nada más que la verdad con la ayuda de Dios? Yes.
You remember when you started at Real Water?
¿Recuerda cuándo comenzó usted en Real Water?
Era 2016.
It was 2016.
And how did it come to your attention that Real Water had a job opening?
¿Y cómo se enteró usted de que Real Water tenía un puesto abierto para empleo?
Indeed, through Indeed.
Indeed, through Indeed.
Did you know anyone at Real Water before you worked there?
¿Usted conocía a alguien en Real Water antes de que comenzara usted a trabajar ahí? No.
And what was your first job position with Real Water?
¿Y cuál fue su primer puesto de trabajo que tuvo usted con Real Water?
Trabajador de línea.
I was a lead worker.
That also called lead technician?
Eso también es técnico lead o lead technician en inglés.
No, dije trabajador de línea, como line worker.
Or I said line worker. Line worker.
Line worker. And what did the line worker do?
¿Y qué es lo que hace un trabajador de línea?
Varias cosas, empacar las aguas, armar las cajas para empacar las aguas, para sellar las cajas, ponerlas en las paletas y rapearlas para shipping.
Well, several things. Packing, I also pack boxes, I seal them, I put them on pallets, and I ship them.
Okay. Did you help make the water?
¿Usted ayudaba a hacer el agua?
Y, no al principio.
Not in the beginning. Not in the beginning.
Did there come a time that you helped make the water?
¿Llegó algún momento en el cual usted ayudó a hacer el agua?
Sí, cuando me convertí en el lead guy del equipo.
Yes, so when I became the lead guy of the team.
And when was that?
¿Y cuándo fue eso?
2017, fue como un año después.
2017, about a year later.
And you were just making retail bottles as opposed to 5-gallon jugs, is that correct?
¿Me podrías traducir eso, por favor?
Y solamente estaban haciéndolo en botellas para vender no al mayoreo, sino al minoreo.
Sí, estamos haciendo las botellas.
Yes, we're making the bottles.
Or retail bottles?
Los que se venden al minoreo.
Sí.
Yes.
And you were not making the 5-gallon jugs?
Y usted no estaba haciendo los contenedores de 5 galones.
No, I was another department. We were only making like 500 liters and the liter and a half bottles.
All right. Now, did Real Water also have written procedures?
Yes.
Okay, like, for example, I have as Exhibit 1, a written procedure to define quality control points. Did you see that document?
Yes.
Okay, can you read that?
Read, you want me to read that at the paper?
Yeah, some of the witnesses suggested that there was a request made to translate some of these things into Spanish. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, well, I talked to the lady and she told me that there was going to be a translator just in case if I needed some help.
Okay. So you talked to someone at Real Water and they said they would provide you a translator?
Oh, no, in Red Water, no, yeah, we'll be, I was able to read it.
Oh, okay, so you can read this document?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. Have you ever seen this document prior to today?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, and you know what a critical control point is?
I don't remember.
You know what a HACCP team is? HACCP team?
Honestly, I don't remember. They will teach us all of that. Like we used to have like classes
classes and have like videos about it, and I just don't remember about it.
And how often did you use these written procedures, if at all?
Like use them.
Did you use them on a day-to-day basis to do your job?
Not really. I mean, we knew what to do already. You know, we didn't have to.
Okay. And how did you know what to do?
They used to tell us, they used to teach us like what to do, how to do it, and that's how we knew.
Okay. On the document that I have, Exhibit 1, it talks about a Director of Quality Control. Do you see that title there?
Yes.
Who was the Director of Quality Control when you were there?
Director of Quality Control. It will be. It used to be a. Well, it used to be a girl in the office. They would change. You know, people they would get a fire or something, and they would change. You know.
Okay. There was a warehouse where the pallets were stored, correct?
Yes.
Were there traps in there for rodents or mice?
Oh yes. Yeah, there was. I'm not sure what it was, but I knew it was a guy that used to go like probably like once or twice a month to change something on those trucks.
And did you ever see yourself, did you ever see evidence that there had been rodents or mice there?
No.
See any droppings from rodents or mice perhaps?
No.
Can you describe exactly what your first employment was at Real Water? We may have talked about this earlier, but can you give us some detail about what your first position was at Real Water?
Yeah, it was just as a line worker. When you're a line worker, you do anything, any of the jobs that they told you to. Like you could be packing half of the day, you could be packing the water bottles into the bags, or in the other half you can be sealing the boxes with hard glue. And the other day you could be working on with the boxes, putting them in the pallets, wrapping them. You would do different stuff every day.
So, is it my understanding that you began working at Real Water in 2016?
Yes.
And how long did you work at Real Water?
I'm not wrong, it's 6 years.
6 years? So approximately till about 2022, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And your role is that you had just described previously about doing a little bit of everything, is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, which shift did you work when you were working at Real Water?
Morning shift.
Was that from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.?
Yeah, it will change. Sometimes it will be from 4 a.m. to 3 or 6 a.m.
How many days a week did you work?
5 or 6 sometimes.
Now, did you get training when you began working at Real Water?
Yes.
And did you feel that your job training was adequate for you to do your job?
Yes.
Do you know where the concentrate was made?
Yes.
And where was that?
It was like a clean room right there in the same warehouse.
Would that be in the Desert Inn facility? And who made the concentrate to the best of your recollection?
It will be Lane.
Would be Blaine Jones?
Yes.
Anyone else that you're familiar with or know that made the concentrate?
No.
Were you ever in that clean room?
No.
You obtained a food handler safety card, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
When did you first receive the card? Let me state it this way. After you started working at Real Water, how long after you've been working did you receive the food handler safety card?
Probably like 10 months after.
And you received that from the Southern Nevada Health District? Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that your recollection? Was there come a time after you began working at Real Water that your job title or duties changed?
Yes.
When did they change?
When?
Yes, how long after you began working at Real Water did your job title or duties change?
When I first started, like a year later, I was a lead guy. Then 2 years later, I was a supervisor. And probably like 4 years later, I changed to make the bottles. I used to run the glow machine that was the plastic bottles. And I was an operator, a blower. And then probably like a year after, I was a supervisor with the blower.
When you were an employee at Real Water, did you take your job serious?
Yes.
Did you work hard?
Yes.
Did you value your job?
Yes.
Now, you were paid every 2 weeks, is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that in any given 2-week period, you work almost 90 hours?
That concludes Mr. Mendegana's testimony.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have another one?
Yes, Your Honor. Real Water will call Charles Neslin from Bureau of Fins Laboratories. His testimony is about 13 minutes long.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Neslin. My name's Will Kemp, and it's pronounced Neslin.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And should it be Dr. Neslin or what?
Just Mr. Neslin, or you may call me Charles.
Okay. All right.
Can we stop for a second?
Okay, Mr. Neslin.
What we're gonna do at this time, we're gonna take a restroom break for the jury. And we can just start from the beginning when we come back. And it's important to point out for everyone, this is not an endurance test. And if anyone has an issue, let me know, and of course, we'll address that immediately. And so, ladies and gentlemen, remember, you're admonished not to converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this trial, or to read, watch, or listen to any report or commentary on the trial by any persons connected with this case. Remember, no newspaper, television, radio, social media, and last but not least, not form or express any opinion as to the ultimate outcome to this matter submitted to you for deliberations. Okay. They're in your hands now. And we're off the record?
No,
We don't have to go on the record yet.
we're on the record.
Okay, thank you.
Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, and Mr. O'Doul, it's my understanding we're going to show another video testimony for the jury. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. This is the video recorded testimony of Charles Neslin from Eurofins Laboratories, and it's about 13 minutes long.
Good morning, Mr. Neslin. My name's Will Kemp. It is pronounced Neslin.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And should it be Dr. Neslin or what?
Just Mr. Neslin, or you may call me Charles.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Neslin, can you tell me who you work for?
I work for Eurofins Lancaster Laboratories Environment Testing, a company within the Eurofins Environment Testing group of laboratories.
And in general, what does Eurofins do?
Eurofins Environment Testing does environmental analysis, so analysis of contaminants in the environment, water quality parameters, soil remediation parameters, and the like. So any and all of the environmental contaminants that you might read about in the newspaper, spills and the like, we do that kind of testing and deliver those results.
Okay, how long has Eurofins been engaged in doing this type of testing?
Eurofins Corporate has been engaged, for over 50 years. The companies within the Eurofins Environment Testing America have different tenures. The facility I'm at, which is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, has been doing that for nearly 60 years. Our counterparts in what was Europe Test America, they've been doing that also for nearly 40 or 50 years, so it's quite a few decades.
And is Eurofins generally recognized as one of the premier testing entities in the world, actually, for testing water? Can you tell me some of the more prominent representative clients that Eurofins has?
Yeah.
Not by name, I'm just Fortune 500 companies, perhaps.
Yes, there are Fortune 500, there are petrochemical companies, chemical companies, large remediation consulting companies that we do work for nationally and worldwide.
Municipalities as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you tell me just briefly the extent of your educational background?
I have a BS in chemistry from the University of Pittsburgh and spent another 2 years in graduate studies in organic chemistry before starting work at my current location, which is the Legacy Lancaster Laboratories, currently Eurofins Lancaster Laboratories.
Okay, and how long have you been working for Eurofins?
At this location for Lancaster Laboratories and now Eurofins Lancaster Laboratories, about 38 years.
Was Eurofins retained to undertake some testing with regards to a product known as real water?
That I cannot specifically answer to other than what I've seen in the analytical reports.
Okay, Eurofins was retained to do some testing, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
And how would you describe the product being tested?
As based off of the analysis reports, they look to be water samples for which different water analysis parameters testing parameters were performed.
And do you know who retained Eurofins to do the testing of the water samples?
I do not, sir.
Okay, and what type of testing generally did Eurofins do on the water samples?
From what I saw from the analytical reports, there was, of course, the hydrazine analysis. There was some other organics analysis, like semi-volatile compounds. I believe there were also some volatile compounds done, as well as some anion analysis, like chloride, nitrate, nitrite. I believe one sample may have even had a microbiological test on the dropping the name right now, but it's for looking for bacteria in the water.
You referenced a hydrazine analysis. What is that?
Hydrazine is a compound that's used, considered an energetic in some aspects, used and associated with, at least when we first became familiar with and set up the analysis for this, used as a propellant, rocket, or associated with rocket propellants.
And is there a name for the hydrazine analysis, a number or something?
Well, there's not the formal name or number for the analysis. It's really a user-defined SOP because it's a method that we developed in-house but referenced an EPA method called 8315 because we incorporated chemistry that is similar to the 8315 methodology. So we refer to it as 8315 modified is the method reference we used.
Okay, I've seen a number 8315A. What does the A stand for?
In the SW846, which is solid Office of Solid Waste Management, and their compendium of methods, it is a versioning. So there'd be an 8315A. When a new or revised version comes out, it would be 8315B. And you see the same across other environmental methods that come out of SW846.
Prior to doing the testing, did your fins consult with anyone regarding the scope of the testing?
That I cannot say.
With regards to the hydrazine testing, the reference to EPA in front of 83115A, what does that mean?
The 83115A, EPA in front of that is indicating that it comes out of an EPA method reference or collection of methods, and that in sum total is considered SW8 Solid Waste 846, which is a collection of methods that cover all kinds of wastewater, solids, hazardous waste kinds of testing methods and parameters, ranging from inorganics, metals analysis, and anion analysis to all forms of organics analysis, including sample digestion, sample preparation, all kinds of, basically like an environmental cookbook, if you will.
Okay. And what does EPA stand for?
Environmental Protection Agency, sorry, if that's what you're going for. Yeah.
And did EPA 8315A exist as a testing method in 2016?
EPA, yes, 8315 did exist.
Okay. So if someone wanted, your fins could have tested water samples back in 2016 using the same protocol.
So the analysis, and this is a point I tried to make earlier in the explanation, is that what we're referencing for the hydrazine analysis is an 8315 modified, which means we made some adjustments to EPA 8315A. 8315A is formally, as written, a method for the analysis of formaldehyde.
Okay. And did you referred to your fins, did you make the adjustments for this specific testing, or is that just something that was done in general?
That was something, we did not do it for this specific testing. That is something that we did at least a decade, maybe 15 years ago, at the specific request of a client for a large project in which hydrazine was one of the constituents of concern, and they asked us to develop a methodology to perform analysis, low-level analysis for hydrazine. And we did so by taking some of the parameters of EPA 8315 and adjusting those so that they would be beneficial modifying this is they would be beneficial and selective and specific towards the analysis of hydrazine.
And that was done 15 years ago for another case.
Approximately, yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a reason you did part of the testing in one facility and part of the testing in another?
It's a matter of capabilities, laboratory capabilities. The hydrazine analysis is a special test, one, as I indicated before, one that we developed in-house here at the Lancaster facility, so it's not necessary, and in fact, some level of intellectual and proprietary knowledge about what we did to set that up, so it's not generally available across all of the facilities.
I think you referenced this earlier. Was hydrazine identified by matching the peak retention times and the product ion ratio to the analytical standards for sample one?
For all the samples, that's a part of the process. You have a retention time and what's called a mass transition, because we're using LCMS-MS, which is referenced in the methodology reference we've got up there. So you look for a mass transition at a specific retention time, and then you look for a secondary mass transition at that same retention time as a form of confirmation of the detection. So for each of these, whether there was a detection or not, we're looking for that information in each of these as an indication of presence absent.
Okay. And hydrazine should not be in drinking water, should it?
Hydrazine is not a parameter that's looked for in drinking water, so on a regular basis. So I would not be able to draw a conclusion, a hard conclusion there, sir.
And I think that you touched on this one in response to Mr. Kemp's last question, or second to last question, but as far as you're aware, is hydrazine an analyte that is typically tested for in standard bottled water testing?
To my knowledge, no, it is not.
And is hydrazine something that's tested for in any sort of standard water testing that you're aware of, such as municipal water or anything like that?
To my knowledge, no, it is not.
In terms of Eurofin's capabilities for liquid testing, roughly how many different analytes can Eurofins test for?
This is really just a guesstimate. I have not tallied the actual number, but it's several hundred.
So, for example, there are several hundred, at least according to your estimate, different analytes that Eurofins can test for in a bottled water sample?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any of your clients ever testing bottled water for all of the several hundred of the analytes that Eurofins can test for?
No, I'm not aware of that.
If a party wanted to test a water sample for hydrazine, that is something that would need to be specifically requested, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And in fact, you described that Eurofins had to develop a special protocol to even test for hydrazine?
Yes, that is correct.
Your Honor, that concludes Mr. Nesslin's testimony. Underwater would next call via video recorded testimony Blaine Jones. His testimony is about 15 minutes long, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good morning, Blaine. Would you please tell the jury where you went to high school?
I went to Boulder City High School. So I graduated from Boulder City High School, but also attended Rock High School in California.
Okay. And when did you graduate from Boulder City?
2005.
And after graduating from high school, what did you do?
I started working for my father, a couple of different businesses that he had going on and different things he's doing.
Who's your father?
Brett Jones.
roughly when did you start working at Real Water?
I would say probably around 2008.
And when you first started working at Real Water, what kind of work did you do?
I first started working on the production line.
And what is that?
The producing of the bulk water product that he was making.
And where was that?
In Las Vegas, off the desert end.
And did you start to progress through the company as you worked there?
Yeah, worked for a number of years at the company and did different positions that whatever was basically needed at the time throughout the years, kind of filled that gap and, made everything work as needed.
And what kind of company is it?
As a bottled water.
And what kind of water is your water?
Alkaline and negatively ionized.
And when you first started with the company, who made the concentrate?
John Marley.
And who's John Marley?
He's the inventor of the concentrate technology.
Okay. And did that change at any time?
During the course of the company, I was instructed and trained by him on how to do part of the process for making the concentrate. And he trained me. He was always kind of involved with it throughout the years, but it went from him solely doing it to then me taking over some of those.
So kind of an on-the-job training?
Yeah.
And about when was that approximately?
I would say 4 or 5 years into the company's life, so they just kind of started training me.
About 2012, that time frame?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Blaine, what are we looking at here?
That is a water filtration unit.
And what does it do?
It takes the municipal water from the tap, basically, and puts it through a series of filtration steps, mainly reverse osmosis, which is the one that takes out the majority of the particulates or things from the water.
So this is basically municipal water comes in on one side, and then what happens?
It goes through all the different stages. You see the different tanks and filters that are on the unit there. Like I said, reverse osmosis, a couple different media filters, UV lights. There's an ozone addition to the water as well. And so basically out of the end of it, it comes out and goes into a holding tank and it's filtered water.
All right, what are we looking at here, Blaine?
In the center of the frame there is the 5-gallon washing, filling, and tapping machine.
And this is at the Henderson facility?
Correct.
And what's on the left-hand side of that screen?
That is a water tank that was used, I believe, for the actual mixing and making of the real water product.
So the water would come out of the filtration system and go into that tank or the other tank?
There's a holding tank, I think, behind the filling machine that you can't quite see here. That's where it would go into, and then it would go into that holding tank and then be pulled from the holding tank into that mixing tank, I guess is what it was called.
Okay, so we see page 2 of exhibit 347, please. Again, what are we looking at here?
Different angle, the 5-gallon filling, washing, filling, tapping machine on the right, and then you can see the tanks there. The middle one is one of the mixing tanks on the right that you can kind of barely see is the holding tank, and then another mixing tank on the far left.
Can we go to the third page of exhibit 337, please? And now what do you see?
You can see the holding tank better, larger there on the left.
So the water comes out of the filtration system into that holding tank?
Correct.
And what are we looking at here, Glenn?
The 3-compartment tank.
And what was this used for?
Washing and sanitizing and different tools, things that were needed.
And can we take a look at what's been marked as a 246L, also fill tank?
The holding tank there, yeah, on the right, and then the two mixing tanks on the left.
Okay, and there's a ladder in the picture, what is that used for?
To be able to access the top of the mixing tanks.
And let's take a look at the last exhibit, the last photo, 461. What are we looking at there?
Different angle of the three-compartment sink, hand washing sink there on the left, and then one of the mixing tanks there on the right.
So after the product is made, what does the machine right in front of us do?
The 5-gallon machine, so the empty bottles would be fed into the machine on the other side that's being shown, and they would go into a washing cycle, a sanitation cycle, and then come around and get filled and capped. That would be the flow of the bottles themselves. The water would be pumped from the mixing tanks over to the 5-gallon machine there. First go through a secondary UV light that you can see on the top of the 5-gallon machine, and then go into the filling heads of the machine, which would then go into the empty bottles that were just washing inside.
As part of the manufacture of raw water, was the water sent to outside laboratories for testing?
Yes.
Blake, can you describe in very, very general terms what this is? This is a letter from 2017. What is this?
This is a letter from Silver State Analytical Laboratories here in the Vegas area, who the company used to do various testing, and the third-party certified lab to do the testing.
And what were they testing?
The product, all of them.
The finished product?
Finished product, yeah.
How often would they do testing?
They would do weekly testing, quarterly testing, yearly testing, and then another more comprehensive test every 4 years.
And so this particular one is from 2017?
Appears to be
And who's Base Analytical?
subcontractor for Silver State.
And what did they do for the water?
Same thing, so Silver State was the vendor that the company used, and then Pace Analytical was who they sent the actual these tests out to, for whatever reason.
What's the time frame of this particular test?
Looks like it's July of 2018.
And what is this?
Another test from a different lab.
And when was this one?
Looks like it's November of 2019.
And again, what are they testing?
The finished product. I couldn't tell you, there's a number of different things they actually test for, but the sample was of the finished product. surprised at the time, and unfortunately I had to kind of step in and, make do the best that I could.
And at the time of the audit, or after that audit, did you take HACCP training?
I did, yep.
And what is HACCP stand for?
Hazard analysis and critical control plans.
Now I want to turn to, for the last area that I want to ask you about, focusing on the production of real water. Can you explain to the jury why workers are told not to drink real water directly off the line?
Sure. Basically because the part of the filtration process of the product goes through ozone. So one of the common ways to treat bottled water or water for bacteria and basically eliminate the bacteria in the water. And so it was treated with ozone right before it's bottled, which is the standard practice through bottled water manufacturing. And that ozone is harmful for someone to drink directly. And so if you drink the product right after it was dosed with the ozone or right after it was bottled, you have an upset stomach, not feel very well for a day or two. So the ozone dissipates out of the product, out of the water. It has a half-life, I believe, of about 8 hours. I'm an expert, but that's my recollection. So drinking the product right after it's bottled, you would be basically that high concentration of ozone.
Are you familiar with this document?
No, not.
How about page 20 of this document? Have you seen a list of these toxins, poisons, identified by the CDC? You heard of the CDC, correct? Do you see where hydrazine is identified on this list of toxins? Take a little time.
Yep, I see it.
Is it fair to say that the tests that you performed or that were performed on real water did not include testing hydrogen?
It's my understanding that those tests did include testing hydrogen.
Did or did not?
Did not.
Thank you, Rick. One other question. Is it fair to say that hydrazine was found in the real water concentrators?
I was made aware of it after a certain time. I was asked to go through my depositions. I found out that it was found in the water.
And so from roughly 2008, when you began working there, until 2020, real water never tested for hydrogen, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that concludes Blaine Jones' testimony.
All right.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes, you may. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're done with video testimony for the morning. It's my understanding that the defense will have a witness testify live by Zoom. Is that correct? At
Yes, Your Honor.
1:30. And so what we're going to do, we're going to break. Then after that witness testifies, we'll be done for the day. Is that correct? After approximately an hour, hour and a half or so?
Yes, Your Honor, that's
Okay.
correct.
And then we'll meet Monday morning at 9:15, but this is the point I want to make, and so you understand this. The lawyers have been very efficient in this case. And I'm not just saying that. Normally, cases like this can take 6 weeks, 8 weeks. But they've been really efficient as far as presenting their testimony, and they have. And we haven't had a lot of bench conferences and not a lot of delay. I just want to let you know that. And so, anyway, we're going to break. We'll reconvene at 1:15?
Yes, Your Honor.
1:15, just to, yeah, be ready to go. It could be ready to go at 1:15. We might not start until 1:30. I just want to let you know that. But in the interim, just be ready to go at 1:15. Then once we're done with that, we'll be done for the day. And then Monday, maybe closings Tuesday, maybe.
We were hoping we could start the closings Monday afternoon.
Yeah, we have 2 witnesses on Monday, Your Honor.
Okay.
And that's it.
I'm just telling you, they've been really efficient. I'm not saying that just to say it. I've had cases where we've had one cross-examination go 7 hours, which was a complete waste of time, in my opinion, you know. But I just wanna let you know that, but we're really making really great headway. So I guess I have to read the admonishment, right? And so I just wanna let you know, you're admonished not to converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this trial, or to read, watch, or listen to the report or the commentary on the trial by any persons connected with this case, or by any medium of information, including without limitations, newspaper, television, radio, social media, you know, remember, we all know this now. Last but not least, do not form or express any opinion as to the ultimate outcome of this case until it's finally submitted to you. And from that perspective, you know, just remember that. And I guess we're done until I'll be ready to go at 1:15. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Right. Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. And we are making really great time.
Judge, elaborating on what I was saying, what we were hoping is that we get Dr. Robbins on 9:15 or whatever, Monday morning. He's the pathologist for the therapist. And I would think we'd be like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, who knows? And then we have Dr. Alcina, I think would be relatively short.
Probably.
Maybe half hour or so. So we would think that we would be done with the testimony at 11:30, 11:45, and break for lunch, and come back and start the closing at 1:30, 1:15, whatever. Go back to court. And I'm gonna try to keep mine. Why are you laughing? My estimates are always better than yours. Okay? I'm gonna try to keep mine somewhere in the 1:15, maybe Mr. Parker will be an hour. So, depending on how long Mr. Abu goes, we could probably get, even with rebuttal, we might be able to get it done Monday.
That'd be great.
Might bleed over a little bit to Tuesday morning.
I understand, but
Yeah, I'm just concerned about Nevada Day, that's my.
I understand, I do, and that is the one only concern we potentially would have. And we'll just, maybe, we're talking Monday, maybe if we can, maybe go a little extra, maybe 5:30 or so, to have closings done. I'm quite sure that the jury wouldn't complain about that.
Sure, Your Honor. And then on jury instructions, I think we've sent the jury instructions.
Actually, I think, you know, we're very close. I'll talk to counsel at the lunch break, and if there are any disputes, they'll be very narrow. We can address after the close of evidence.
Yes.
I think there will be a dispute on punitive instruction, but we don't have to do that one right now. We can do that after the jury starts deliberating.
Yeah, we've done that in the cases before where the jury goes to deliberate and then we settle the
Yeah.
punitive instruction if
It
necessary.
makes perfect sense. But yeah, I think what we'll do then, because I'm quite sure the jury would probably agree to this, if we have to go a little later on Monday to finish up closings, it makes a lot of sense, that's what we should do.
And Judge, what we could also on Monday, put a lunch in for the jury, say
Yeah.
what time the hour is.
Yeah, we can do that too. Because it would be nice if we can maybe have closings start deliberation Tuesday morning.
And you want us to, start arranging that now?
Yeah, might as well, you know. And that makes it even a softer sale where we provide lunch and we can go ahead and plow through, get the closings done completely. And then once we're done with that, adjourn, come back the next day, start the deliberations, and we're moving along. And actually ahead of schedule.
Yeah, Judge, I think judging from the Wren deliberation, I think that went about a day and a half.
Day and a half, yeah.
Yeah, remember that was for 8 people.
Right.
And 5 of them were kind of the same person because there were 5 babies.
Right.
Relatively the same condition. So I'm thinking it's gonna be at least that long. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, we want to give the jury adequate time.
Oh, I never rush them. I don't. I just, I don't have adequate time. All right, well, I guess we can.
Your Honor?
Sir.
I was approached by juror number 3
Yes.
And she has the homework that the court requested.
Okay, we'll get it from her after your lunch.
Yep. Yes, Your Honor.
We'll have her come in.
And just while we're here, we got a minute, we went back and researched what we did in the last case, that we had a similar situation. And so what we did in the last case is we contacted the Venetian, the juror, affected juror worked at Venetian. And we paid directly to the payroll department, and the payroll department paid the juror, which was doable primarily because we represented the Venetian. We were able to, they take our calls when we call. But the problem is that took 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, once you start getting into HR payroll.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could do that. I can't remember where she works, but I talked to Mr. Du about it, and we just think cutting a cashier's check or whatever, the amount, give it after the verdict, of course.
After the verdict.
That's ultimately how we made the payment, by cashier checking.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Any problem with that, Mr. Lincoln?
No, no problem with that.
I don't see one, I don't see any, and I think that's probably the best way to handle it, because who knows what happens once you send it to HR.
Yeah, just the problem was that juror, that particular, yeah, I mean, they need their money, right?
They need their money.
They had to wait 6 weeks, and, I don't think she'd like you to say.
No one wants to wait 6 weeks. I mean, and I'm very sensitive of, the issues of many of the jurors, because I think sometimes, as lawyers, we're in a different financial category, and we look at things differently. And for the average man or woman who serves on the jury, many of them are living from paycheck to paycheck, and a couple $100 here or there is a big deal. And that could impact what they do the rest of the month. And so, yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with that. And so we'll have her calculation, and that will, of course, give her some ease, and we'll end up where we need to be.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right. Part 16 is now in session. Please be seated. Thank you.
And thank you, ma'am. Let's go ahead and set forth our appearances for the record.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Teddy Parker, Will Kemp, Eric Krepman, Deanna Switzman on behalf of the plaintiffs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Joel Ledoux, Matthew Kaufman, Eric Freeman on behalf of the Real Water defendants.
All right. And I know we're getting ready to start, but we did find out some information. You can show that note to counsel.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we take this and we subtract that, right?
I guess. All right, we can,
Yeah, Judge, I think we've got it now.
All right.
if you guys got it, that's fine.
Do we need to lodge this with the court, or should I just write this down, or what should we do?
Or you can,
Can we take a picture of it, Your Honor?
yeah, you can take a picture of it. You know how it is. Mr. Kemp and younger members of your firm are a little bit more
Whatever.
technological,
Carbon paper.
Right. I don't think so. We'll ask them if they want to. Do we want to make that a court's exhibit or no? No need to.
I don't know if we need to.
Yeah.
As long as-
I want to get your secret notes. Concentration.
Seriously.
There's a way I figured it out.
Yeah. The stuff in the courthouse was so bad.
Minus that.
Right.
Oh, okay.
We'll do
Judge,
the math.
Yeah, we'll do the math.
And we'll come to an agreement.
I don't, I guess you can give it to me. Maybe we can put a left side to file.
Yeah.
Oh, we have something like that? Yeah, we can left side it.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be official record, but it'll be in there so we know where to find it, right?
That's right.
Yes. Do you want me to give this to you?
Yeah. Well, that's what we got. All right. So other than that, anything else outside the presence?
Yeah, we're ready to proceed.
Okay, bringing them in.
All rise for the jury.
Please be seated.
All right, do the parties stipulate to the presence of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and so ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hope you enjoyed your lunch. And it's my understanding the defense will be calling their next witness, is that correct, sir?
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right.
The defense will call Dr. Henry Lynn, this man, via Zoom.
Okay.
Sir, may I have you unmute and raise your right hand? You do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
May I have you state and spell your name for the record?
It's Henry Lynn, Henry. Lynn is Lin.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can I?
Whatever you need to do, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good afternoon. Dr. Lynn, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You know, first, Dr. Lynn, could you, actually, could you put up our slideshow, please? I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see this, Dr. Lynn. Is this?
Yes, I do.
All right. Trope, can we go to page 2, slide 2, please? All right, Dr. Lynn, can you give the jury a little bit about your background, please?
Yes, sir. I'm a pediatric hepatologist and gastroenterologist, and so what that means is I take care of children with liver diseases and any conditions that impact their GI system from mouth to bottom. I also have specialized board certification and licensure in pediatric transplant hepatology, so by nature of that, it means I take care of children with liver diseases before, during, and after a liver transplant. I work at an academic medical center and have over 14 years of experience taking care of children with liver issues. And I previously served as one of the leads for Liver Transplant Center at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and currently moved out west for family reasons and work as part of the Oregon Health and Science University team.
Thank you, Doctor. Have you published any articles on pediatric liver care?
Yes, sir, I have.
Can you tell the jury approximately how many articles you've published over the course of your career?
I've published over 60 articles on a range of topics, with some of the topics including pediatric liver disease, pediatric liver transplant as well.
And Doctor, you mentioned you're at, I know Oregon Health Science University, which is commonly referred to as OHSU, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Do you, in addition to your care of patients there, do you have any other duties at the hospital?
Yes, sir, I do. In addition to care of patients, I also am responsible for teaching our learners. That includes some medical students and medical trainees. I also have an administrative position in which I help lead our pediatric gastroenterology group. So that includes all of our providers and team members taking care of children with pediatric GI and liver conditions, as well as I do some research as well.
Thank you, Doctor. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right. So this next slide, this is kind of just for the jury to give you guys an outline of where we're going to go and how we're going to go about this. The first point, it says Trevor Abelli suffered an acute liver injury from drinking real water in 2016. The jury has heard a lot about acute liver failure. Can you explain to us why we're using the term acute liver injury here instead of acute liver failure?
Yes, sir. Just a moment of clarification. I think when we say acute liver injury, the medical terminology we usually use is acute hepatitis. HEPA for liver, itis for inflammation. Hepatitis is a very general, generic term that just means the liver is inflamed. But I think sometimes that can be confusing with specific causes of liver injury, like a viral hepatitis from a virus. And so I believe that's why we settled on the term acute liver injury. But the main difference is in, actually in the term itself is one says injury and one says failure. Acute liver injury is basically, something is irritating or harming the liver, but, the liver is still functioning appropriately. The example or analogy I like to think of is if you had a bruise on your arm, right? You have a bruise on your arm, it hurts, right? Doesn't mean that, but you can still move your arm all around. You can still, the arm still functions, but your arm still hurts. And so acute liver injury is akin to that. The liver hasn't failed. It's still doing its functions. And it's just injured, and hopefully what it means is that you can recover from it. If you don't recover from it, then you progress to the acute liver failure, or rather liver failure.
Now, medically speaking, understanding the difference between having a functioning liver and a non-functioning liver, are there any tests that would to differentiate between acute liver failure and an acute liver injury?
Yes, there are. So when you think about the functions of the liver, there's many different functions of the liver. And one of the key tests that you can use that's a marker of liver function is the INR, which is a measure of the clotting time. And the reason why that is because your liver makes these clotting factors. And so if the liver isn't functioning, you're not going to make these clotting factors. And then by default, your clotting time is going to increase, and that's measured by the INR. So when your INR rises, and it can rise for several different reasons, but when the INR rises, one of the things that we look for is to say, well, is the liver making appropriate amounts of clotting factors to allow the blood to clot?
And when assessing the difference between acute liver failure and acute liver injury, what is considered the threshold for an INR with acute liver failure?
It's qualified, and meaning that there's a few different thresholds you look at. One threshold is an INR greater than 2, assuming that the patient or person is appropriately mentating or acting appropriately. If you have any signs of what's termed hepatic encephalopathy, which is you could be like confusion or things like that, then if you have hepatic encephalopathy, an INR of less than 1.5 is what we use. Or sorry, not less. An INR higher than 1.5 is what we use as the definition of acute liver failure.
Can you go to the next one, please? And next slide. And as part of your work in this case, you did review Mr. Abelli's records, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
I keep mispronouncing his name, and I apologize for that. So when you reviewed Trevor's records, what was Trevor's INR in March of 2016 when he first got sick?
From the chart right there, and based on my review of records, the INR when he got sick was 1.3.
And and is this chart an accurate representation of the medical records you reviewed in this case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it looks like, based on this chart, that by his INR maxed out at about 1.3, and within 1 month had dropped back down to 1. Is that considered normal?
Yes, sir. An INR of 1 is considered normal.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So, in your opinion, did Trevor have an acute liver? Why did Trevor have an acute liver injury as opposed to acute liver failure?
So he has acute liver injury because his other liver enzymes, like the AST, ALT, which are markers of liver injury or irritation, those are elevated. You can see them elevated in injury or failure, but the key distinction here is the markers that we have of his liver function, and in particular the INR, that was normal. And with that being normal, it doesn't I should say it's normal now, and also it's below that threshold of the 1.5 or 2.0, depending on, you know, the clinical picture. And so without meeting that threshold, by medical definition, he meets criteria for acute liver injury or liver injury instead of liver failure.
Now, I just want to kind of talk generally a little bit about what are the symptoms, the common symptoms of an acute liver injury?
So there can be many symptoms of acute liver injury, depending on the nature or the underlying cause of it. But in general, someone can sometimes present with a little bit of fatigue or tiredness. They may be more sleepy. Sometimes you can be jaundiced or yelling of the skin, and that's because you can get a little bit of accumulation of bilirubin as well. If that happens, sometimes you can be pretty itchy. And so those would be some of the main symptoms that you would see with an acute liver injury.
And in terms of Trevor's acute liver injury, do you have an opinion as to what caused it?
You know, based on the records I review and everything I've seen, it seems like Trevor had exposure to real water, and that seems to be likely the cause of his acute liver injury.
Okay. One of the other things that, one of the other symptoms that Trevor had in March of 2016 was known as splenomegaly, and it was mentioned before to the jury board. Could you give them a little bit of background as to what that is exactly?
Yes, sir. So the spleen, so splenomegaly, its spleen is splenospleen, and megaly is big. And so the spleen is an organ in your body. It sits on the left side, right underneath the rib cage, and that term just basically means it's big. Is it big by examination, meaning that if I feel your belly, usually I shouldn't be able to feel the spleen because it's nestled in right nicely underneath the rib cage, but if it peeks out below the rib cage, that could be a definition of splenomegaly or a big spleen. Or sometimes by imaging, there are certain standards to say, hey, in general, a spleen should measure about this length. And if it measures bigger than that, that can also be why they use the term for the big spleen.
In your opinion, what caused Trevor's splenomegaly on March 2016?
So there can be many reasons why you can have a big spleen. It's everything from underlying infection, autoimmune conditions, metabolic or genetic conditions can cause it. Sometimes blood flow to the spleen can cause it. Think of it as if you have a clot in the blood vessel, that sometimes can cause blood to accumulate. Sometimes you can see it in liver conditions. Based on his records, I would say, and the imaging, it seems like the big spleen was most likely from his acute liver injury.
Okay. Can you explain to the jury the course of Trevor's treatment for his splenomegaly and what happened with it?
Yes, sir. And so in general, and this is me looking at this with the lens as a hepatologist and a pediatric hepatologist, is if we assume that the big spleen is from a liver injury, then you have to treat the underlying cause. And so in this case, you treat whatever it is that's causing the liver injury. If it's from a toxin, you remove the toxin. If it's from, a viral infection, you treat the viral infection. And so from the records I reviewed, and with what we know now, it's, a lot of the treatment is supportive care, letting Trevor's body recover. And as your body recovers and as the liver returns back to its normal healthy state, then over time that spleen should shrink back down in size, basically. And the reason why that happens is because, real quickly, blood flow goes throughout the body, has to filter through the liver to get back to the heart. And think of it as if the liver is injured or inflamed, sometimes things are a little bit more swollen. It can be harder for blood flow to flow back through the liver, and it can back up into the spleen. The spleen is kind of one of the first places that the blood flow will back up into. But once the liver injury resolves, that swelling goes down. It's kind of like returning to normal from if you have a highway that's during rush hour traffic, right? Things go back down to normal, blood can flow through the liver, and then the spleen should slowly decompress and return to normal size.
Thank you, Doctor. Based on your experience and review of Trevor's records, what kind of ongoing issues does Trevor have as a result of his splenomegaly?
Based on my review of records, it seems like, Trevor received the appropriate care, timely care, and that his big spleen is totally resolved. I believe on one of his physician notes, they made a record saying that on exam they didn't feel a big spleen. For Trevor in particular, I know that they had noted both the big spleen on exam per the medical records and also by ultrasound. I don't believe I saw a record saying of an additional ultrasound. So what I had to go on is, the physician's record saying that they didn't appreciate a big spleen or feel a big spleen on exam. And based off of that, it seems like it's fully resolved and he's recovered from it.
Okay. One of the other issues, one of the other things the jury has heard a lot about is AST and ALT levels. And can you kind of just give the jury like 30 seconds on what the importance of those are?
Yes, sir. So AST, ALT, these are chemicals that are produced by the liver. They can be produced by other tissues. But when the liver gets irritated or injured, these levels can go up. And there's a normal range, and when you're above the normal range, depending on how high up, that sometimes can signal to you, what might be going on. But high is high, and it's always concerning when you have an elevated AST or ALT. And like I mentioned, that signals to us that the liver is injured. As your liver recovers, and assuming you're treating the underlying condition, the AST, ALT should improve over time. There's not a great time for us to say it should improve quickly within a few days versus a few weeks versus a few months. It all depends on your underlying condition. But once the AST, ALT normalize, that tells me that the liver really is no longer actively inflamed or injured and that you should have recovered.
Okay. And based on your review of Trevor's medical records, when did his AST, ALT numbers normalize?
Well, sir, it's, as you wrote there, the first recorded things that we have is they normalized by October 2017. I believe when I reviewed the records, he had labs. I saw labs from November 2016 when they're still elevated, and then the next set I saw was October 2017. So the most accurate answer I can give you is just what I see in the labs there.
Okay. Have you seen any other labs after October of 2017 for Trevor?
Yes, sir. He's had a few more, including some blood work from May of 2021, in which time that blood work was also reassuring from an AST, ALT standpoint.
Okay. Based on you, let's talk, before we get too much into that, one more thing I want to talk about is neutropenia. Neutropenia. Can you explain that to the jury?
Yes, sir. So neutropenia, it's a medical term. So you have white blood cells in the body that are helpful in helping your body fight off different infections. There's 5 different types of, or subclasses of white blood cells, one of which are neutrophils. Basically, for each of these subclasses of white blood cells, there's a general level of what you would expect most people should have at least this many of each of these types of blood cells. And so neutropenia just means neutro for neutrophils, that type of blood cell. Penia for too low means that, when you have that term, it means that you don't have enough of the neutrophils. And so there's a specific cutoff. Typically the teaching is anything less than, it's technically 1.5 million, but depending on the units, is usually what we use, or what is traditionally used in medicine as the cutoff for the classic definition of neutropenia. And I would say that would be the general gist of neutropenia.
Okay. Did any of Trevor's blood tests after 2016 test for neutropenia?
Yes, sir. He was seen by a hematologist oncology clinic and followed a few times, and I saw blood work from May of 2021 that included some testing for that.
What did that blood? Sorry, strike that. Let me start over. What did the blood work from May of 2021 tell you in terms of the neutropenia?
That it had resolved. The neutrophil count at that point in time was 2.2 million, and so by definition, it seemed that it had resolved.
can we pull up exhibit 2664? And this has been pre-admitted.
Your Honor, can we approach one quick second?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, counsel. Wait, I don't, ready? Live again.
All right, thank you. Dr. Lynn, just real quick, I just have to ask you, are you reading from something right now?
No, I am not.
Okay. Do you have any papers in front of you, like your report or anything?
No, I just have my pager because I'm on call as well, so.
Okay, thank you, doctor. We just wanted to double check that real quick.
Yeah, I let people know that I'm unavailable, but just when it dings, I just have to peek at it real quick, so I apologize.
Understandable. All right, okay, Joe, can we pull up that exhibit real then? All right. Can we make this can you make the top third of it a little bit bigger so the jury can read it? And so just to orient the jury real quick, you were talking about Trevor had some visits with someone, with a doctor specifically for his neutropenia, and this is one of those records, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this is from May of 2021?
Yes, sir, that's what it says.
Okay. And based on your review of this record, is there anything in this record that you found concerning or, sorry, strike that. Let me ask you a better question. Doctor, when you review this record, what does this record tell you?
Based on this doctor's assessment, it tells me that, he was here, that he's had a history of high bilirubin level, transaminitis, which is an elevated AST, ALT, and then myelosuppression. I believe that's referring to the neutropenia back in March 2016, and then it says it's recovered to normal. So when I read that, it tells me that things are resolved.
Okay. And can we go to what is marked as 2664-15? Actually, it's 16, I'm sorry. And this page, Doctor, is this is the copy of Trevor's May 2021 lab results, correct?
I believe so. I can't see the top where it gives you the date, but at the very, or I think it might be on the previous page, but like at the bottom where it says PTINR, it says collected May 10th, 2021. I just don't see that for the top part of the paper.
Can we go back
I think
to
it's on the page before, if I recall correctly.
Just so we have a clean record. Go down a little bit to the top of the testing. The laboratories, there we go. We want to see what date those were collected. And that is,
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that is May 10th, 2021 as well, right?
That's correct, sir.
Anything in this blood work that is concerning to you?
No, not to my review.
Okay. Is there anything in this blood work that is that is high or low or?
Not to my review, not on this page. I believe not on the following page either. They're all within that normal range as being listed there besides for the phosphorus or phosphate. I believe that's the one that has the parentheses that says abnormal.
What would that indicate?
That can be from a variety of reasons. Phosphorus is a mineral, and so sometimes it depends on what how much you're getting in your diet and what the composition, what other minerals you've been taking, and so it's really hard for me to make heads or tails out of an isolated high phosphorus level. But outside of that, everything else looks very reassuring and in the normal range.
Okay. Based on your, all right, let's just can we go back to the slideshow, the last page? Based on your review of Trevor's records from March of 2016 to the last records we have, which are in 2021, what's your overall opinion of Trevor's health?
My opinion is that he's seems to be doing quite well right now based off of the medical records that I've reviewed. It seems like his INR, his AST and ALT are all normal by lab work, and so that's both telling me liver function as well as liver irritation. There's no signs on exam of a big spleen or a big liver, and so that's also reassuring. And by the physician's notes, it seems like he's doing quite well and has recovered from his liver injury.
Now, just a couple of things just to wrap it up. One of the things that Dr. Hudson, the plaintiff's expert, has mentioned was that the need for ongoing monitoring of Trevor's AST and ALT. Do you have any opinions on that?
Yes, sir. I mean, I would say there's my doctor hat and my parent hat. As a physician in general, once you've recovered from an acute liver injury and things have normalized, there's really not necessary to continue to test it on a routine basis. But as a parent, absolutely, I feel like I would want to know. And so I think Dr. Hudson's recommendations of ongoing routine testing of the liver test seem pretty reasonable to me.
Doctor, that's all the questions I have for you at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Parker?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Afternoon.
Dr. Lynn, nice to see you again. Good afternoon.
Good to see you as well, sir.
And Dr. Lynn, let's start off with some things that I believe we can agree upon, okay?
Yes, sir.
You'd agree with me, based upon your investigation in this case, that the 5 children that were flown from Las Vegas to Salt Lake City to the primary children's hospital all suffered acute liver failures due to real water, correct?
I believe you're referring to the previous children, cases that I've reviewed. Is that correct, sir?
Whatever investigation you're speaking of. Yeah, the MMWR, I think, actually spelled it out. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do recall that, yes, sir. Yes, I mean, if they've met the medical definition for acute liver failure, yes, sir.
You recall that. You recall reviewing that report, correct?
Yes, sir, very briefly.
Okay, and you came to the conclusion that real water caused their acute liver failures, correct?
Yes, sir, that they have liver failure and they also ingested real water, yes, sir.
Which contains hydrazine, which is a toxin, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
It's a known liver toxin, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, in terms of this case and what this jury is to decide, Dr. Lynn, you're only providing one opinion in terms of the 15 plaintiffs. You're here just to speak about Trevor Abele, correct?
Yes, sir, I'm a pediatric hepatologist, so I'm only, I feel most comfortable and qualified to speak about care of children with liver disease.
Understood. Shane, can you put up this slide with the plaintiffs in this case? So these are the 15 plaintiffs in this case. It's my understanding of these 15, you're only here to speak of Trevor Abele, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Trevor Abele was 9 years old when he was determined to have acute liver injury, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And I'm using your terminology, acute liver injury as opposed to acute liver failure, okay?
Oh, that's because that's what he had, yes, sir.
Understood. And were you aware of Mr. Abele's consumption of real water, how much he consumed and how long?
Yes, sir, just in the discovery documents that were provided to me.
Okay, and what's your recollection of that, sir?
I believe he had started real water consumption around 2014. I don't recall the exact month. And so to 2016, depending on month, any 1.5 to 2 years, somewhere around that time frame.
2 years worth of real water for a 9-year-old who's trying to be competitive in the hockey arena, correct?
2 years of consumption, yes, sir.
All right. Now, I shouldn't say Mr., but Severin Morales, he was 22 months when he was flown from Las Vegas to Salt Lake City. Do you recall that?
I recall looking at his records, yes, sir.
All right. Shane, can you put the slide up? Here we go. So can you see that, Dr. Lynn?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay. So Severin Morales consumed real water for 22 months, during his whole 22-month life period at that point. It says 2 months, actually, of consumption time. And Trevor, at 9 years of age, consumed real water for somewhere around, I think you said 2 years, based upon your review of the medical records and the information in this case, correct?
Based on the information I was provided, that's what I saw, but I would defer to the family themselves.
Is it fair to say, Dr. Lynn, to this jury, that Severin Morales, after only 2 months of consuming real water, suffered permanent liver injuries?
I don't believe so, sir.
Okay. Do you recall testifying that based upon Dr. Datnow's review of Severin's liver biopsy, that Severin's liver suffered permanent damage?
Yes, sir, and I believe what you're referring to is, again, you have an expert saying that there was a permanent liver injury, and that did not match what was in the medical records that I reviewed. And so, without actually seeing Severin directly, it's hard for me to really weigh in on that statement, sir.
Okay, well let's make it plain then. As a hepatologist, as a pediatric hepatologist, do you generally rely upon a pathologist to read liver biopsies?
I rely on the pathologist as well as speaking with the pathologist, yes, sir.
All right. Because the pathologist, like Dr. Datnow that the jury has been introduced to, actually, that's their discipline. They look at the slides, they determine what the slides actually present, correct?
Yes, sir, and then my discipline is to take that and interpret it with what the patient is presenting with, sir.
Absolutely. And is it fair to say, Dr. Lynn, that Dr. Datnow concluded, after reviewing Severin's liver biopsy, that he suffered from permanent injuries in the form of cirrhotic nodules?
Yes, sir, that was Dr. Datnow's conclusion, sir.
And is it fair to say that as a pediatric hepatologist, those are the types of conclusions or determinations made by a pathologist that you typically defer to?
In terms of presence of, in terms of interpreting the liver biopsy, yes, sir. In terms of overall liver health, that's where I use my experience and in talking with the pathologist to make that final statement or to make that distinction.
Understood. You know something? Let me address that point, Dr. Lynn, because I think you're distinguishing between you as a hepatologist, pediatric hepatologist, and a pathologist, correct?
Well, yes, sir, because the pathologist doesn't actually see the patient.
All right. And as a hepatologist, once you get the information from the pathologist, you do your own investigation, your visits with the plaintiff, then you normally determine the prognosis or the general health of the patient, correct?
Yes, sir, in general, yes, sir.
And you would make a diagnosis after you've had a chance to examine the patient, review the diagnostic studies. That's something that the in your profession, the pediatric hepatologist would do, not the pathologist, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I followed your line of questioning.
Yes. You're the person, you're the doctor, the pediatric hepatologist, that would be actually communicating with the patient or the patient's parent, saying, now that I've done my examination, I've seen the results of the diagnostic studies, in the case of Severn, it was a biopsy, and you would provide a diagnosis to the parents or the patient, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. That's typically what you do as opposed to the pathologist who would give you the information they've received from reviewing the biopsy slides, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you don't rely on the pathologist to give the diagnosis to the patient. That's what the pediatric hepatologist would do, correct?
With regards to liver disease, if you are in the care of a pediatric hepatologist, yes, sir.
All right. It would be unusual, Dr. Lynn, for the pathologist to provide the diagnosis and the prognosis for the patient. That would be what the pediatric hepatologist would be required to do, correct?
I'm not sure I fully agree with that when you say unusual. I would say, a pathologist looks at a specimen and they can tell you, what they see descriptive. There are certain conditions that have a very clear diagnosis where you can say, based on what I'm seeing on the biopsy, this is what the diagnosis is. That's, what you're referring to as cirrhotic nodules is more of a descriptive term, not a specific disease condition, I guess is, and so I think I'm having a little trouble following what you're trying to ask, sir.
Let me see if we can make it clear. You as the hepatologist, not the pathologist, would be interacting with the patient, correct?
In general, yes, sir.
All right. And as the hepatologist, you would ultimately convey the diagnosis to the patient and perhaps the prognosis, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, because typically the patient did not retain the pathologist, the patient is not looking to the pathologist as their physician. They're looking to you, and you would provide any information you may have gotten from the pathologist, but ultimately you as the hepatologist would provide that information, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Now, going back to where we were, let's continue on things that we can agree on. We can agree that real water had hydrazine in it, correct?
Yes, sir.
We can agree that hydrazine is a known liver toxin, correct?
Yes, sir.
We can agree that hydrazine can cause permanent injury to your liver.
Yes, in some cases, yes, sir.
We also understand that hydrazine can cause death.
Yes, sir.
We also know that hydrazine can result in liver transplants, correct?
Yes, sir, it can.
All right. Now, in terms of the slides from Severn Morales, it's my understanding that you reviewed the testimony of Dr. Datnow and his opinions related to his determinations of that slide or slides, correct?
Yes, sir. You're regarding his deposition or?
Deposition, trial testimony, whatever you reviewed.
No, I reviewed both and they were conflicting, sir.
Okay, so then let's talk about what we can agree to in terms of his testimony or his opinions. Do you have a recollection that he found cirrhosis in the Severn slides?
Yes, sir. That was what he had. I saw in the records and during the trial. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you would agree with me that there's no doubt that that cirrhosis to that 22-month baby was caused by hydrazine in real water, correct?
Yes, sir. His liver injury was due to real water consumption. That we made that point.
Okay. And you can agree also that cirrhosis is a permanent injury, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And would you also agree that when you have cirrhotic nodules, that is a injury that cannot be reversed. It's irreversible.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, we also know, given what you said a moment ago, that Trevor Abely consumed water for a much longer time than Severin, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it fair to say that at one point, Trevor was so sick that he was considered, that the physicians treating him considered sending him to UCLA for a liver transplant? Did you see that in the records?
I saw that conversation, sir, but my interpretation of that is he did not have acute liver failure. He has acute liver injury, and when an indication for transplant in instances like this is for acute liver failure. I can appreciate why they had that conversation, because when you're not at a transplant center, for the best care of the patient is to transfer them to a hospital or institution that does transplants even before you think they need one, or even before they meet criteria for that.
Okay. Was there a biopsy taken of Trevor Abely?
No, sir. The physicians did not think it was actually necessary, and if anything, from the records I reviewed, the first day he was seen in the emergency room, they actually sent him home with close monitoring.
All right. Do you know why they sent him home as opposed to keeping him in the hospital?
No, I can't make that speculation, sir. I wasn't there for that discussion. I can just tell you, in looking at the medical records, with his liver function being appropriate, that is a reasonable course of management.
Were you aware of the testimony of Sandy Abely, Trevor's mother?
Yes, sir.
She testified in front of this jury just a few days ago.
I reviewed the transcripts, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall Ms. Abely describing why they didn't keep her at the hospital? Keep Trevor at the hospital?
Vaguely, yes, sir. I mean, I read the testimony.
What's your recollection of what you read?
Yeah, I don't want to misspeak, so I'd have to have my memory refreshed.
Well, fortunately, we have it ready for you. If you could change...
Thank you.
No, no worries.
First clip, Mr. Parker?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
So we were sent home, and he was put on bed rest for over 3 months that he could not move. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't go to school. He couldn't play sports. He couldn't be around anybody. I put my entire life to the side and did not leave my child. He violently threw up, constantly nonstop for weeks. We had to go multiple times a week, every few days, to do blood work. And because his spleen was so enlarged, I ran the risk every time he threw up that his spleen could burst and he could bleed out in minutes. So they told me it was more dangerous at the hospital than it was at home. But I was so scared every time he threw up that I was in a complete panic. I had to hold it in because I was scared his spleen was going to burst and rupture and he was going to bleed out in minutes and I wouldn't have time to get him to the hospital. I cannot tell you how scary as a parent this is, that you're helpless. There's nothing that you can do for your child. We don't even know what's wrong. We have no idea how to help him. My husband and I were just at a loss. He slept on the floor in his room at night, so he was never left alone. I didn't leave his side all day.
So, Dr. Lynn, Sandy Abely, Trevor's mother, said that she was afraid because of his enlarged spleen that he shouldn't travel. And she said that the hospital told him it was safer for him to be at home than to be in the hospital itself. Did you recall reading that when you read the transcript, Dr. Lynn?
Yes, I do. And first, I just want to say I can't imagine any parent having to go through that experience.
Well, we know that's what happened here. And she did go through that experience. But the bottom line is, it was her recollection that she was told that it was safer to be at home than to be in the hospital itself. So I'm just making sure you're not using the fact that Trevor was not in the hospital to suggest he was not sick.
No, sir, I'm not suggesting he's not sick. You asked me about indications for liver transplant or something to that effect. Trevor was sick, don't get me wrong. I mean, the records show he was sick, and both physically and also the toll it takes on the family, absolutely. But, and I'm not trying to debate anything, I'm not the physician who was there. In these instances, I will go with what the family says and recalls because that's the experience that was experienced, and my heart goes out to the family. But if I just look at the medical records itself, I will say, his liver, he did not meet the criteria for acute liver failure. He had liver injury, and very thankfully, he has recovered from that.
So, Dr. Lynn, it's fair to say that a biopsy was not taken of all 5 children that went to Salt Lake, correct?
I'm sorry, you're switching again. We're not talking about Trevor now, is that correct?
I am switching because of what you just said. I want to make sure this jury hears your answer to this question, Dr. Lynn. There were 5 children taken from Las Vegas to Primary Children's Hospital in Utah, correct?
Yes, sir. I have to be honest with you, that was in a separate trial, so I have not reviewed that in quite some time. You are much more up to date on that than myself.
I'm sorry, I can throw the MMWR report on it that shows, that actually mentions the 5 babies.
Your Honor, can we approach?
We're waiting.
Where's my? Yeah, because I gotta turn 2 things off.
Okay, you're welcome. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Dr. Lynn, you ready to go forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I was speaking to you about the 5 babies that were referenced in the MMWR report. Do you remember that now?
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you remember that not all of those babies were biopsied, correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And yet all 5 of them were found to have acute liver failure, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now, in terms of Mr. Trevor Abley, the 9-year-old that we're here to talk about, he didn't have a biopsy, correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Is it fair to say, Dr. Lynn, that you cannot exclude the possibility that Trevor had bridging fibrosis in March of 2016?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? Sorry, sir.
Sure. Dr. Lynn, you can't exclude the possibility that Trevor had bridging fibrosis in March of 2016, correct?
Same objection.
Right, it's overruled.
I don't think you can exclude it unless you have a liver biopsy, sir.
Thank you. Which means which also means you can't exclude that he had cirrhotic nodules.
Same objection, Your Honor.
In March of 2016, correct?
Yeah, overruled.
I don't believe that's the same thing, because with ultrasound you can see cirrhosis by conventional ultrasound, and his ultrasound, if I recall correctly, did not say that there was nodular liver or cirrhosis.
You can't tell that by virtue of a biopsy, can you? Because there was no biopsy taken, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I follow your question. I thought you were asking me, can I exclude if he had cirrhosis? And my answer is, he had an ultrasound, which you can detect cirrhosis on by ultrasound.
Okay, so let me ask it this way. I believe you testified in deposition that the biopsy is the gold standard for determining the condition of the liver, correct?
It's the gold standard at assessing if you have scar tissue in the liver. Yes, sir.
Okay. So in terms of a permanent scar or scarring on Trevor Abley's liver, you cannot exclude that on March 2016, that he did not suffer permanent scarring on his liver because of his consumption of real water.
Objection, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Isn't that true, sir?
He did not have a liver biopsy, so I cannot tell you if he has scar tissue, but I can tell you clinically, by all other measures of how he's doing his blood work, is that he's recovered. And when you recover by definition, you don't have a permanent injury.
So, Dr. Lynn, you appear to want to skip ahead. I've asked, I thought, a pretty focused question. You responded to it, and now you're talking about his recovery, which I'm going to get to momentarily. Okay?
No, I understand, sir. I was just saying when you say the term permanent, my answer to that is when you recover, that tells me it's not a permanent injury if one was there.
All right. So, is it fair, Dr. Lynn, and let me ask if you've seen this in your practice, and I take it you've reviewed the deposition testimony of Dr. Hudson and his trial testimony in front of this jury, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it fair to say, Dr. Lynn, that a patient can come into your exam room seemingly healthy, but have damage to their liver?
Yes, sir. We definitely see that sometimes.
And I don't know, can you see this courtroom? Can you see everyone in the courtroom?
I don't believe I'm seeing everyone. I have a view from the back where I can, I see 3 rows, the judge and not the jury, I believe.
All right. And if Dr. Hudson said that he's had people walk into his examination room with serious liver injuries who never knew, are you saying that that could or could not happen in your practice?
Oh, and that can happen by nature of liver disease, is that you can have liver disease and not know about it. Yes, sir.
And so you can actually have AST and ALT normal readings and still have liver injury, correct?
Yes, sir, but that's different than what you just asked me about walking into my office with liver injury.
I think it's on the same line, Dr. Lynn, but let me ask a follow-up question, which also means, based on what you just said, that just because Trevor Abley's test results in 2021, that doesn't necessarily mean that his liver has not been scarred or injured, correct?
Objection, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I mean, there's no way to definitively tell unless you have a liver biopsy or an ultrasound or some combination, but based on the records I reviewed, his liver is recovered. His liver is functioning, his liver is not irritated.
And you're aware of the fact that I'm sorry, I keep saying Mr., because he's still a very young child. Sever Morales had scarring on his liver, which was seen in spots, which I believe you've already agreed to, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And he's not had a liver transplant at this point to your knowledge, correct?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
And at this point, we know that Trevor presented with severe jaundice, correct?
Yes, sir. His bilirubin, yes, sir.
In fact, let's take a look at Exhibit 393. I believe this has been stipulated to, John. Unless I am mistaken.
What is
the picture of him, of Trevor?
Yeah, it's fine, no objection.
Could you bring this forward? Bree, I apologize. I help. I apologize to Bree. My first trial, this is all I did the whole trial, holding billboards up. So don't feel bad, Bree, if I ask every once in a while. And so I brought the billboard, Your Honor, I'm using a billboard only because when we looked at the pictures on the screen, it did not look like the pictures that we could see on this screen. I don't know if it's the monitor, but you can see. Can you see this, Dr. Lynn?
Yes, sir, I can.
Can you see the yellow appearance of his skin?
Yes, sir.
Can you also see the rash on his skin?
Yes, sir.
Did you know that hydrazine can cause this type of rash?
I'm not aware, sir, but I don't know everything there is to know about hydrazine.
Did you know that if your liver is injured by a toxin like hydrazine, that could cause this type of rash?
I did not know that.
Do you recall reading the 1971 article regarding the machinist that died after only 6 weeks of 6 months being exposed to hydrazine 1 day a week for 6 months, ultimately died? You familiar with that article?
Vaguely, yes, sir.
And you recall in that article of the types of symptomology that machinist died of? I mean, ultimately had, of course, died.
I'm sorry, the volume cut out for just a moment. Was there a question there, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Lin, do you recall the symptomology that person suffered from prior to his death?
No, I do not.
Have you ever seen someone's liver be attacked by a toxin that causes rashes and then, of course, the jaundice?
Yes, sir. I mean, there are several different toxins to the liver, and
so there's no doubt in your mind, looking at these records and these photographs, and I want to show you next Exhibit 389. I believe this has been admitted to, Your Honor. Can we follow this one?
No objection.
All right. That Trevor truly had a liver issue when he presented in March of 2016, correct?
oh, yes, sir. We've been agreeing on that this entire time, sir.
All right. And based upon your review of the records, it's fair to say that you can agree that he suffered a liver injury, and you cannot rule out that he didn't suffer permanent injuries to his liver, correct?
I do not think he has suffered permanent injury to his liver based on my review of records.
But you can't rule it out because you've not had a biopsy of his liver, correct?
If your definition of permanent liver injury is scarring, then yes, sir, that's correct.
Now, did you know how eventually it was determined, or I shouldn't use the word determined, do you know how eventually Trevor stopped drinking real water?
I do not recall, sir.
Did you read that testimony from Sandy Abely on that point?
I reviewed it, but I do not recall, sir.
Shane, could you please put that up for me? Yes, please. And hold on 1 second, let me ask one more question, Dr. Lin. Dr. Lin, when someone like a 9-year-old is going through this symptomology, is it painful for them?
Are you asking physical pain or emotional stress, or?
Physical pain.
It can be. It depends. It depends on a variety of factors, but I've certainly had patients who've had pain.
And what determines pain? What would make it painful, in your opinion?
Well, if your liver is swollen or big, sometimes that can cause just some abdominal pain or discomfort. And certainly by the records reviewed, he had a big liver. If you're jaundiced, what that means is you don't have good bile flow, and sometimes that can actually lead to itching because your bile deposit is depositing in your skin. And so if you're itching in the skin, that can be uncomfortable, or I presume that some people could say it's painful as well. I think there's many reasons, right? If you're in the hospital and you're being poked with IVs, that could be painful as well.
Is there a correlation in terms of how bad the liver is injured to the amount of pain that the patient is suffering with?
No, sir.
Well, let me have you play this.
He was in so much pain that he would just scream day and night. The itching from the liver, I guess it causes skin rashes, and that's what he got. So he had a rash that moved all over his body, and he would scratch, especially his hands and feet, from pain. So we would have to sit on him and hold him down and keep him from going till they were itched, till they were raw, and bleeding. So we would literally have to sit on him and hold his hands down with him screaming. If he got up to go to the bathroom, it was so painful that he was crying in pain, screaming out for either my husband or I, "Mommy, Daddy, help, help." And we would run to him, and his urine was the color of amber, like dark, dark amber. If he had a bowel movement, it was like white Play-Doh. It wasn't, he couldn't keep any food down. He was only having Pediasure shakes and water. We couldn't keep anything else down.
Do you recall that testimony, Dr. Lynn?
Yes, sir.
And are those symptoms that are associated with liver injury?
Yes, sir. Those are all symptoms you can see within a liver injury.
Can you also see those same symptoms with acute liver failure?
Yes, sir. I mean, they're part of that same spectrum. It's just, is your liver functioning or not?
Okay. And then, in terms of UCLA, what was your understanding of the doctor's consideration of sending Trevor to UCLA?
Oh, I don't presume to have any understanding of that because I don't really have any great amounts of records to have an opinion on that right now, sir.
Do you recall the testimony from Ms. Abley about that?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Dr. Lynn?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear us? Okay, I've got a third clip.
Yes, sir.
I got a third clip I want you to listen to. Again, it's testimony from Ms. Abley, Sandy, okay?
Yes, sir.
He did. So we, on a Friday, met with the pediatric GI doctor, and I remember this very vividly. And he said, "I'm going to send you next week on Monday. I think we're going to finally send you out to UCLA. It's not getting better. And you're going to start the review for a liver transplant." And my husband wanted to give him his liver. There's no way to do that, but he was ready to. He said, "You know what? I'm going to send you on Monday, but I'm going to wait one more day. I want to test him one more time on Monday, and I'll send you on Tuesday out there. So get everything, in order, wrap up your affairs, what you need to do before we send you." And we just prayed and prayed so hard, had Trevor on every prayer list that we could put him on. And I did a great reset. I went through my entire house. We had no idea what was causing it. I threw out pots and pans, cleaning products. I threw out food, cleaned out my pantry, my fridge, everything. We had no idea what it was. And I changed his water. And I bought water that was in a glass bottle. And over the weekend, his numbers started coming down when he was retested on Monday. And we kind of regrouped and had a new plan.
All right. So Dr. Lynn, do you recall reviewing that transcript of Ms. Abley's testimony?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it fair to say to this jury that the 5 children that were taken to Salt Lake City were also taken there for consideration of liver transplants?
Yes, sir. For additional management, yes, sir.
And then ultimately, based upon Ms. Abley's testimony, they stopped drinking real water, correct?
That's what she said, yes, sir.
And by the grace of God, Sandy Abley was able to get rid of that real water, and Trevor started getting better, correct?
Yes, sir. That's what she said.
And not unlike the 5 children in Salt Lake City, when you removed them from the real water, and they started drinking the hospital water in Utah, they also got better, correct?
Yes, sir. And that's what the records show, is that they got better over time, yes, sir.
I have no further questions, Dr. Lynn. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
I help you with that.
All right, Dr. Lynn, I just have a couple of follow-up questions for you. You're not, at any point, Trevor was very sick, correct?
Oh, yes, sir, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. It's just on the records and everything that we've seen and heard today, he was very sick.
And based on your opinion, his liver injury was caused by real water. We're not disputing that, are you?
No, sir.
Okay. And based on your medical opinion, you believe he has recovered, correct?
Oh, yes, sir. Based on my medical opinion, based on the records I've reviewed, he is recovered.
Okay. Did any of Mr. Parker's questions change any of your opinions in this case?
No, sir. I mean, I appreciate the line of questioning, but at the end of the day, it's very thankfully you have to look at the big picture, and it's Trevor has recovered. His liver function, his liver irritation numbers, they look good. They're normal. On exam by his pediatrician, he doesn't have the big liver or big spleen anymore, and so very thankfully he has recovered. Absolutely.
And all your opinions today were to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's all the questions I have.
All right.
Oh, no further questions, Dr. Lynn. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn.
Oh, thank you.
Dr. Lynn. No questions from the jury, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, so hang on for 1 minute to get a jury question.
We don't have one.
Yes, sir.
We don't have any, do we?
No. Okay. Thank you, doctor.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, from the defense. Yes, we may. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're done for today. Just want to let you know that. Secondly, as far as Monday is concerned, this is my understanding, we'll have 2 additional witnesses on behalf of the defense. One will be testifying live by Zoom. The second one will be testifying live in open court. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And then after that, I think we'll start closing argument. Just want to let you know about that. So we're making good progress. That we are. Okay, so remember, you're admonished not to converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this trial, or to read, watch, or listen to any report or other commentary on the trial by any persons connected with this case, or by any medium of information, including without limitations. Remember, no newspaper, television, radio, social media. Last but not least, do not form or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until the cause is finally submitted to you. And what will happen, just so you understand how things progress, once we finish up with the defense case in chief, we might have a short break, and then at that point, I read the jury instructions. Remember we talked about those. And I'll read them to you. You can't take notes, but you'll get copies of the jury instructions to use during deliberation. Everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. Just want to make sure you know that. And so anyway, we're making really significant progress, I think. And I will see you Monday morning, 9:15. And we'll start promptly then, and we're going to move the case along. Okay?
All rest of the portion of the jury.
And enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, sir. And before we go off the record, also, do we have verdict form ready to go?
Your Honor, we have received a verdict form and jury instructions last night. We got the verdict form yesterday. We have one issue on the verdict form. We can take care of it now. We can take care of it.
Joel, I'm sorry to interrupt. We can agree to remove those.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go.
Well, that's why I asked the question, see what helps.
That's why you're the judge. You asked the good questions.
So that's taken, the verdict form is agreed upon, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I guess, I would think, I mean, how many real disputed jury instructions do we have at this point? 2? 2.
Punitive.
And the, whatchamacallit instruction, Philip Morris instruction. But that would be later
That's
too,
the
so we
phase
can
two.
defer that.
Yeah.
So I guess there's really no need to argue those until,
Yeah,
There's one,
there might be one.
what's the one?
We'll see if we can resolve it amongst ourselves if there's just one.
there's this one.
There may not even be one. We just need to talk, Your Honor.
All right, I'll give you a chance to talk and work it out. Because if we're not talking about a lot of instructions, one or two, we can resolve that Monday, easy,
Yeah, we agree.
right? But then you might work it out. Like you worked out the verdict form, Mr. Pepperman. And you didn't even know you had worked it out.
Didn't even know we worked it out. but we worked it out.
All right, well, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, thank you so much.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
See you guys later.
Mr. Kavanaugh.